To call tonight's meeting to order for Tuesday, September 26th. This is the regular meeting. We will be moving to executive session at the end of the meeting. So I would ask everybody to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We've got another fun-packed meeting tonight. We will move directly to public announcements. The Hanson Multi-Service Senior Center will be on site for Hanson residents who are in need of fuel assistance this year. Please contact the Senior Center after November 1st for a list of documents required to apply. 781-293-2683. Please note, application for fuel assistance is made through the Senior Center, but Self-Help in Brockton sets the guidelines and administers the program. The Water Department will be flushing hydrants through November, starting at High Street to Main, Reed, South, and Pleasant Streets. Flushing will be conducted Monday through Thursday between 7 p.m. and 12 a.m. Residents may experience discolored water. Please avoid doing laundry during these hours. The Water Department will provide advance notice of all areas where the flushing will occur. Pembroke Watershed Association will hold a meeting on Wednesday, September 27th at 7 p.m. at Arrow Restaurant on Route 36 in Pembroke. Sarah Grady of North and South River Watershed and Alex Mansfield of the Jones River Watershed will be the featured speakers. The meeting is open to the public. For more information about the Pembroke Watershed, go to www.pembrokewatershed.com. Whitman and Hanson Dollars for Scholars will hold its Fall Electronic Recycling Day at the McQuon School in Hanson on Saturday, September 30th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Residents and non-residents can dispose of their unwanted electrical items which they may not be able to do away with by conventional trash methods. A fee will be assessed, which will support Dollar for Scholars Scholarship Awards program. Mass Audubon will host a free workshop on working forests for birds, climate change, and your community, which will be held on Saturday, September 30th from 8:30 in the morning to 1 p.m. at the Hanson Senior Center, 132 McQuon Street, Hanson, Mass. Discussions will include what are working forests, how do communities benefit from forests, what about bird habitat, timber, development, and climate change resilience. A light breakfast and coffee will be served, presentations also, and visit to a Hanson conservation area. Suggested audience is landowners, land trusts, foresters, researchers, municipal officials, birders, and citizens. The event is free, but registration is required at www.massaudubon.org. Whitman and Hanson Dollars for Scholars is hosting a skating fundraiser at the Carousel Family Skate Center at 1055 Auburn Street in Whitman on Sunday, October 1st from 5 to 7 p.m. and is open to individuals of all ages. The admission for the skate fundraiser is $5 with a $3 fee for skate rental. All proceeds will benefit Dollars for Scholars. There will be free giveaways throughout the event as well as raffle prizes. For more information on both of these events, please contact Mike at 781-252-9683 or visit www.whitmanandhanson.dollarsforscholars.org. South Shore Vocational Technical High School will be holding the annual open house on Saturday, October 14th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Families from around the region are invited to attend and speak with students, teachers, counselors, and administrators, as well as view demonstrations in the 14 vocational technical programs. Volunteers are needed on the following committees: 200th Anniversary, Agricultural, Capital Improvement, Community Preservation Commission, Disabilities, Elder Affairs, Energy, Finance, Memorial Day Patriot Observance, and Nathaniel Thomas Mill Committees. Applicants for appointment and info on the committee is available on the town website at www.hanson-ma.gov.
Excuse me, Jim, also Recreation Commission.
Recreation Commission also needs volunteers. So we say this every week for the past 4 months at least, if not longer. So please, folks, we desperately need people to take part in those committees. We have upcoming meetings. The final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee will be held Wednesday, September 27th at 4 p.m. The 200th Anniversary Committee will be held Thursday, September 28th at 7 p.m. The Selectmen's Meeting will be held Monday, October 2nd at 7 p.m. up at the Hanson Middle School. Town meeting will occur on Monday at 7:30, Monday, October 2nd, 7:30 p.m., also at the Hanson Middle School. And we will meet on October 3rd for a Selectmen's Meeting, if needed, at 7 p.m., and a carryover meeting from October 2nd to October 3rd, if needed, at the Hanson Middle School, 7:30 p.m. So hopefully we won't need to, but you never know. All right, we have, on to new business. We have 2 requests. Boy Scout Pumpkin Sale. This is the annual Boy Scout Pumpkin Sale, if I'm not mistaken, right? So we have a letter in front of us. You guys should see it also from Mr. Kevin Keene. He says, "It's that time of year again. Could the Boy Scout Troop 34 Hanson be put on the Board of Selectmen's agenda for Tuesday, September 26th, to ask permission to use the Town Hall lawn for our annual pumpkin sale fundraiser? The dates are Saturday, October 14th from 9 to 4 p.m. and Sunday, October 15th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I would entertain a motion to grant this request.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or comments?
Nope, love to see it. I think it's awesome.
Always, yeah.
Yep.
All right, with that, let's call to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0 on that one, Mary. Congratulations. Did you guys want to say anything on that, or no? You don't want to say anything, no? It's your
I'd like to
chance.
say thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Nice job, Mom.
You want to say?
All I want to know is what's going to happen if snakes start coming over there.
We might pick those up, we're not sure.
All right,
That might be above the pay grade.
it's above mine.
Are you going to camp this year?
Oh, that's
No.
right,
Has
too.
been said about,
Okay.
so.
That's right, too. You guys do your annual camp up there. Well, good luck on the pumpkin sale, and we encourage everybody from Hanson to buy their pumpkins from that site, all right, from you guys. Okay, moving on. You guys are welcome to stay if you'd like, or you can go. It's up to
We
you.
actually have a troop meeting in session as well.
You do? All right, very good.
Great excuse.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you guys. Okay, we have next under new business, the Water Commission has a request to save space for a new water tower, and I think it's approximately 1 acre. You guys should see it under item 2 on your iPads. We have a letter to the Honorable Board of Selectmen from the Board of Water Commissioners. It is dated September 20th, 2017. On behalf of the Board of Water Commissioners, we would like to request that the town set aside at least 1 acre of land, preferably near the current water tank, at the old Plymouth County Hospital site for a future new water tank. And this is signed by our Water Superintendent, Mr. Richard Muncy. I would entertain a motion to accept the request as read.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Let's call discussion. Any questions?
Yeah, so Mike, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Town Minister, what's the protocol? Let's say that we all vote positively to do this, then what?
I think that then we would have to go back at some point and actually identify the specific plot of land. This is more or less a vote of,
Confidence kind
yeah,
of thing? Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So that the Water Commission knows that the Board of Selectmen is supportive of their efforts. And then, at some point in the not-too-distant future, after town meeting, and we go through some of the other things that we have on the warrant regarding the old Plymouth County Hospital, then, we'd move on to these sorts of things.
And I would assume, Dawn, that the Plymouth County Hospital Committee is supportive of this request?
Yes, they are.
Okay, all right.
Tony, can you just tell us whereabouts it's going to be? Is it
It'll be
behind the tank?
located roughly behind the one that's
Wall
up
behind
there
the
now,
tank?
somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay.
Would you guys have
That,
to, do you have to get a surveyor out there?
Upon the engineers, no, when the engineers will have to come up and say
Okay,
what's suitable and what
Yeah,
isn't suitable.
okay.
but it'll be in the proximity in that same area.
Okay.
Will they look at like fall zone, all that other stuff and?
Oh, yeah,
you know,
well,
Okay.
I hope it never falls.
And just a point of curiosity, I know that you, no, I hope it never falls either, that's a whole different discussion. In your mind, Dawn, I know you've got a good sense of that piece of property and of what the size of the water tower would need to be. Do you think that that might end up potentially being near or on that strip that conservation has been suggesting would
No.
be? Okay, so it'd
It's
be,
gonna be behind the one,
okay,
but there's still area enough, I believe, between the tank now and where that strip of
Okay,
land is
all
that
right,
goes
good.
up to the
Okay.
Wampatuck Pond.
all right, great.
Are there any ideas on what it's gonna look like, Donnie? Is it gonna look like the
It'll be
existing?
roughly the similar thing,
To what we have?
but the new tank will be glass lined, it won't be painted.
Ah,
So in other words, after, when the 20 years or so comes along, you won't have to shut down everything like they did before. Plus the fact they'll have the second tank that they can work from.
Right.
They can work off of one tank while they service the other tank. The problem is now is, the Hanson has to buy water from Brockton when they work on the tank.
I got you.
And
so galling.
I'll be honest with you, for 3 months of buying water from Brockton, it cost the town of Hanson $350,000. And if we'd used our own electricity to
Would've been
pump
much
the
less.
4 wells that we have to keep the tank going,
Mm-hmm.
it would have cost us $35,000.
I
So-
really, I've got to ask this question because it's galling me. So I just want to get this straight. Brockton can draw our water.
No, they don't take our
Okay,
water.
All right, they can draw,
Silver Lake.
They
Silver
can't
Lake,
take our
okay,
water at
all
all.
right.
They're taking water from Silver Lake.
okay,
We have nothing to do with that
okay. And
anymore.
then, so they're taking that water and then we pay them to
No, they
to
take,
water from
they-
them.
no, yeah, we have to pay
Okay.
Brockton.
Okay, all right,
We do have, I think it's 81 customers on Brockton Water now,
okay,
that we pay, those residents pay the same amount that Hanson residents pay. They don't pay what we get charged for water from
okay.
Brockton.
And what is the life expectancy of the existing one we've got? I know we just
Well,
had it
another
redone.
20, 25
Okay,
years.
all right, okay.
But by having both tanks, Hanson won't have to rely on Brockton Water at all.
Yeah, we'll have redundancy
They
there.
they
yeah.
can use their own water to take care of themselves. So that it won't cost us the money that it cost us the last time for 3 months for water.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Let's call to vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Support the Water Commission's request on 1 acre set aside for a new tower. Okay, moving on to Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Mike McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I wanted to report to the board that I did have a conversation, a meeting with the chairman of the Capital Improvements Committee, as well as John Curry, who was a member of that committee. We sat and we went over all of the spending articles for Monday, made sure that they were all appropriately added to the matrix. To the best of my knowledge, they met last night and voted those changes in. You do have a new matrix in your packages. I will note that I need to speak with them one more time, because there were some older McQuon items in there that probably don't need to be in there.
Yeah, some of the regional schools.
Yeah,
that's true.
exactly.
All schools, as a matter of
Yeah,
fact.
so suffice to say that everything that we have going forward on Monday has been addressed appropriately. But again, I just need to touch base with them in terms of what additional stuff should or shouldn't be represented, as the chairman said, in reference to the regional schools. So the chairman of the Capital Improvements Committee, John Norton, did indicate that he was willing, if the board so desired, to meet with the board or with members of the board. There had been an indication a couple of weeks or so ago that some members might like to speak with him. However, if what I have done and will do, as just mentioned, suffices, then we can just go from there. But he wanted to make sure that the board was aware of the fact that, he was still more than happy to meet with the board or any individuals who might wish to speak with them.
So for the school stuff, Mike, is he gonna call like Christine at the school? Christine
Yeah, we'll
Super?
have a conversation. I will take part in that conversation. We'll just
Okay.
do it over the phone.
All right, cool.
As far as the tax title auction go, I did reach out to the attorney as was requested last week in terms of whether she thought it made sense to push it off to May or not. I've not heard back from her yet. I can say that we are setting up, hopefully for next Wednesday, an internal meeting to go through the process of choosing more parcels that we may wish to auction off. I know that the board had indicated some interest in moving forward on additional pieces. So we will be hopefully having that meeting on Wednesday next. As I think maybe Selectman Hickey indicated, or one of the members indicated, there is a bit more of a process to it. We have to go to the various boards and committees for them to vet the properties as well. As the board is well aware, there was a property that the Conservation Commission asked us to take off, which the board did. So we need to go through that process, and it's a little convoluted, but we will start hopefully on Wednesday, phase 2 of trying to unload, that's probably the wrong word, to dispose of some additional properties.
Okay.
I wanted to let the board know that as far as the Complete Streets project goes, and the board discussed this at one of the last meetings, I had an additional conversation with Jim Fitzgerald, who is the gentleman from Environmental Partners who has been working with us on that as well as Laurie Muncy. And in our conversation, he strongly recommended to me, given some of the things he's seeing, some of the trends he's seeing, that for the sake of the, I believe it was priority number 3, which was some signalization in front of the middle high school for about $20,000 or so.
Yeah.
He is seeing some of the main priorities of towns falling into a bit of having some issues going through the proper agencies at the state. So I had suggested to him that we drop priority number 3 and concentrate on priority number 1, which is the intersection out in front of the Dunkin' Donuts. So we are proceeding solely with that at this point. We need to put in place about $42,000 worth of engineering to forward that. I think it was $350,000 worth of work we'd get out of the state. The $42,000 we can use from Chapter 90 monies. I spoke with the highway superintendent. We're in agreement that that makes an awful lot of sense. So we're going to move on with that. I'm going to sign a contract with Environmental Partners for that amount of money to get that ball rolling, and hopefully we will be successful. The only other thing that I wish to mention, like I said, I planned on being brief this evening, is today and tomorrow I've been attending an all-day seminar in West Bridgewater on ADA compliance. It was quite enlightening. I am fairly comfortable that the town of Hanson is more or less up to speed on where we should be with just about everything. I will need to take a look once I go through this training. It's actually a certification program to be an ADA coordinator. But what I will need to do after I've learned all of this is go through where we are right now. Mary pointed out to me, my concern was we hadn't done some things, at least to my knowledge, but we had done, previous to me, we had done some of the reports and some of the studies and self-evaluations and whatnot. So I'll sit with those, make sure that we are up to speed to the degree we can be. Like with most state agencies, if you show your intention that you have a plan to move forward on any deficiencies we may have identified, they give you an enormous amount of latitude. Conversely, if you don't do those sorts of things, the state or the federal government, actually, the Department of Justice, could actually show up, find the deficiencies, and if they're not happy with your explanations or what you've been trying to do, they will tell you what you're going to do. They will tell you how much money you're going to spend. They will tell you how quickly you need to do it, and they will tell you, find the money. One example that was used at the meeting I went to today was apparently something happened in the city of Springfield. In the city of Springfield, as probably most of you are aware, basically went through receivership not that long ago. And the DOJ came in and cited them for a number of deficiencies, to which the city said, well, we do not have the money, but they said, we don't care. You find the money. You had 20 years to do this. You've shown absolutely no movement whatsoever. We're not going to take any of your excuses. You figure it out. So obviously, I don't want to see us be in that sort of a situation. As certain things were being explained to me at the meeting, I was going through my head in regards to our facilities and our programming and whatnot. And I think we're in pretty good shape, but I don't want to assume that. Again, after these meetings, I will sit and I will comprehensively go through things, and
And you got Michelle who'll help you?
exactly, and she was there.
Michelle Mills.
Yes, and she's very motivated. She's very motivated, very looking forward to really jumping in with both feet. And she and I discussed, perhaps she and I discussing these things, sometime maybe in November when things settle down a little bit between the special town meeting and the budget ramp up. So I'm happy that we're doing this. And there weren't an awful lot of people at that meeting, which I guess should be concerning to other communities. We are, again, ahead of the curve because we did create the advisory committee on disabilities.
Right.
Many towns have not done that. So, again, I think we've shown to the best of our ability the intentions to move forward and to comply as best as we can with the ADA requirements. But again, I will review those, and I will come back again. She and I will come back and we'll report out to the board, in the not-too-distant future. And that's all I have this evening.
We actually, you're right about, we've done some pretty significant improvements, I think, over the last year or two. When did we get the doors done, Mary? Do you remember?
Before
The
me.
Sutters donated money, didn't they?
3 years ago now?
The automatic doors down here, and then we have the ramp that we put in at the food pantry, so we're showing signs of progress, but I'm sure there's room for improvement. So, all right, thank you, Mike. Any questions to Mike, guys? Okay, let's move on to the next item on our agenda, which is old business. It is the town meeting preview. You should have your booklet of,
You may want to wait until FinCom gets here.
you want to wait till FinCom
Yeah,
gets here?
Jay Talman's upstairs with ZBA. If we just want to do a couple of things, I'll run up and find
That's
him.
fine. Why don't we move then to discussion regarding the recreation director position,
Why
or no?
don't we wait on that as well? Why don't we move to the liquor licenses
Oh, that's fun.
and
Okay.
We're gonna table the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're tabling the minutes, guys, till the next, till Monday night, so you're not gonna see those in your iPads. So we're tabling the minutes on our agenda till Monday night. Okay, so let's move to one-day liquor licenses at Camp Quaney. I'll read them all, and then we'll just put a motion to accept them and vote. We have Lindsay McDermott from Avon, Friday, October 6th, from 4:30 to 10:30 p.m. wedding. Michelle Ventura, West Roxbury, Saturday, October 7th, from 4 to 9 p.m. wedding. Jillian Eddy from Hingham, Sunday, October 8th, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's a wedding. Michaela Baker, Bridgewater, Friday, October 13th, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's a wedding. Ashley Good from Hanson, Saturday, October 14th, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., which is a wedding. Kerry Servell from North Weymouth, Sunday, October 15th, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., and it too is a wedding. Shari Doran from Hanson, Friday, October 20th, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., family party. Molly Roach from South Weymouth, Saturday, October 21st, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., wedding. Chelsea Proctor, Bridgewater, Saturday, October 28th, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., which is a wedding. I would entertain a motion to accept these as read.
Second.
I'll grant them one-day liquor licenses. Motion has been made and seconded. Any comments or questions?
Question, Mr. Chairman. I've asked Mary in the past, when these come in, we don't see as selectmen if the contracts are paid in full. And it's always been a sidebar between Mary and I, that before I vote, I make sure these contracts are paid in full. But I just wanted everybody else to be aware that this is the question that I ask Mary before I vote. And this way, we don't run into any situation that we're granting a liquor license when the event hasn't been paid in full yet.
So I take it all these have been paid in full?
Honestly, I don't know.
So is there a way for us to build that into the process to make sure that,
I can have Lon, what I do is on Thursday, I send down to recreation, a list of liquor licenses that we're gonna have on the agenda. She checks them, makes sure I have the right information, and then she okays it. What I can do is have her confirm that they're all been paid.
And it hasn't been a problem since I've been a selectman, but it's
No,
been
but it's a
a
valid
problem.
point. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
but-
valid
Yeah.
point.
But if I could
Yeah.
make a point too, isn't it the responsibility, or is it the responsibility of the Recreation Commission to make sure that that's occurring?
Yes, but we're the granting authority for the liquor license, and I think Jim's point is, would we want to grant a liquor license if they haven't even paid for the rental yet?
But the rental checking of being
Yes.
payment on that is
Yeah.
done by the Recreation Board. So-
Totally.
So I have to believe that they're doing their job to some point, right? Unless we have evidence or some concern that they're not. Am I wrong? I believe it.
So, in other words, we would not get we wouldn't get anybody asking for a liquor license unless they've already paid. Is that a true statement?
The liquor license come to me when they originally apply.
Separately, right?
No, they come through recreation. They don't
Okay.
come to us. Everything, when someone applies, it's part of the application process. So they give the check to recreation. Recreation then sends up to me the application that you see along with their check.
Okay.
This is a year in advance sometimes when they first book. So then when I get to the month before their event, I send it down to recreation. I haven't asked, have the items been paid? When you asked me, have they paid, I thought you meant, did they pay me?
Oh.
Oh, yeah. They paid me.
Okay.
I would assume that they have paid recreation, the fine, because they have to pay 60 days in advance, they have to pay their balance. So if they hadn't, I'm assuming that I would be told by the administrative assistant that they haven't paid yet, so don't vote that until just before. But I mean, if you're concerned, we can table these until Monday night, and we still have time
Well,
to
I'm
do it.
guessing, let's play out worst-case scenario, Jim. What if they haven't paid in full?
That goes to the Recreation Commission.
Yeah.
Like, they'd be the gatekeepers to make sure that before the event takes place, that they're paid. We're merely saying that all things being equal, they're basically not gonna be allowed to have the event there unless they've
We
paid.
should ask him the process. Is that true that they have to be paid 60 days before the event? Otherwise, the liquor license can't be, there we go. So they're paid.
Yeah.
Well, they would basically have a liquor license they couldn't use.
That's
Because they-
that's
yeah,
the point I'm making.
Because they wouldn't be
Yes.
allowed to use the
Yeah.
premises at that
Yes,
point.
that's the point I'm making.
And the money is unrefundable, so,
Okay.
for the liquor license.
Okay. Yes, so
good.
we have thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
That's a good question.
Made and seconded.
Point has been made and seconded. Further discussion of points?
I'm sorry, who made it?
Has it
Was it
been?
Don and Kenny?
It was the usual
made the
suspects.
motion.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
just checking.
Usual
Don
suspects.
and Kenny.
Are you questioning us, Mary?
No, I'm not, apparently took a nap, I don't know.
Chief Mix.
Sorry, can I just make a quick suggestion? My quick suggestion here is, I wouldn't hold the liquor license up, because you can always physically hold that and tell them they can't have their event.
Yeah.
But if we don't have it in hand in time,
Yeah.
they can't have their event even if they pay. So
They can have their event, they just can't have liquor.
they can't have liquor, and then that's gonna cause me problems. So, I'm just trying to avoid things.
I vote yes. I vote yes. I don't want any trouble.
Thank you.
I just, thank you, and thank you from Recreation Department. Okay, so we've got a motion made and seconded. Let's put it to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0 on the liquor licenses, Mary.
Now we have all the players here.
Now we have all our guys here, right? Okay, so we will move to the town meeting preview.
Guys and gals.
I didn't mean that in there. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Good Lord. Okay, so we're absent Mr. Sean Keeley tonight, who we always look forward to seeing every time he comes. So we miss him. We have some items that we will, I think we have one item that we're going to be passing over. So we'll vet that through him before the meeting, of course. Each one of us should have an item that you're going to be reading. It's going to be in a yellow sheet as it comes to it, so I would suggest you make sure you go through your articles, right? As we flip through them, you'll see which ones you want to read. Okay? No, just not the explanation, we're just going to read the article, if that's okay.
I'm just gonna read them?
Yes, is that all right?
Okay.
Okay.
I had my yellow sheet ready.
We certainly can read the explanation if anybody in the audience asks us to further explain.
Next
All right.
week you'll have to read the,
How's that sound? Everybody good?
yeah.
All right. All right, so I'm going to read the first article. Article 1, the special town meeting, October 2nd, 2017. It states, I'm sorry.
We can have, is Dawn gonna move it? We're gonna
Donnie,
go-
you got
yeah.
it? It's yours.
Everybody just
Right
moves
here.
their own article, so Dawn's first.
Yeah.
Donnie, you
Your
go
Article
first. I'm
one,
sorry,
go
I didn't
for
think it
I
was,
know, I was gonna.
I apologize. I didn't know,
Jim
I didn't know you had the yellow sheet on this. I'm sorry. You're good, you're good. Go, go. Go, Donnie, go.
I move the town will vote to transfer $765.34 from free cash and $2,204.15 from recreation retained earnings to pay unpaid bills for the previous fiscal year.
Okay, thank you, Donnie. That was both placed and recommended by both committees, right? Finance and Selectmen. Article 2.
I move the town will vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $168,937 to supplement appropriations previously voted at the annual town meeting of May 2017 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017 for various town departments as printed in the warrant.
Okay, so this was on place only, right, Mary?
Correct.
So we need to recommend it, or we just?
Yes, you can, now that
Okay.
we have the numbers.
Now that we have the number of 168,937, I would entertain a motion from the selectmen to recommend this article.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to recommend Article 2. Any further discussion or questions? FinCom, you guys didn't vote this on, right?
I just need clarification, Mr. Chairman, in regards to the assessor's contract. That was still an open item of an unknown amount for us. All other items, as broken out in the supplemental budget, were recommended as to be approved by the committee.
Do we have that number? Is it the top one, guys, that we're seeing? I'm seeing
It's 4,000,
4,000 adjustment, right?
right.
Bringing it, the revised budget to 151,729. Mike, you seeing this or no?
No.
They don't have this
Oh, okay,
in front of it. It should be in the,
I'm
is
going off
it in
this.
the,
This is what you sent.
yes, you know, I have,
Monday.
I have warrants outside on the bench, and it has everybody, it has
Oh, it has the numbers?
what's, all the information at that, you guys are looking at the, one page, you know, per page, but I have,
Yep.
the new informational warrants that I printed out today have all the information in it, so.
So for the assessor salaries, the budget was 147,729. Adjustment was 4,000 to 151,729. Thank you, Beth. Is that the only item, Mike, that you guys were holding off on?
No, we had a handful that were, that didn't have amounts, and we had one follow-up question in regards to Article 9, which we.
Okay, but not in Article 2. In Article 2, the only issue you had was the
Article 2, the
assessment.
only one we have was the assessor's contract.
Okay. You guys don't have to do anything, obviously, I just was wondering why, to keep us all on the same page, you know? All right.
No, but, Mr. Chairman, we did vote each line individually, and that was our only open one.
Gotcha.
In regards to any other items that we had that were still remaining open pending follow-up information,
Yep.
at the end of this, we will reconvene back to our meeting and finalize any votes before we leave here.
All right, cool. Thank you, Mike. Absolutely.
Each item, line item, we're gonna be going down, I know Sean's not here to say that, but I would assume we would be doing item 1, item 2, just like we do with the budgets.
I believe you're right, yes.
Yeah, it's up to Sean.
Yeah, it's really up to Sean how he wants
If
to do
there's
it.
enough, sometimes he may choose to do it if he sees that it's.
Well, I know Sean, he'll read each one of these lines. We know Sean, right?
Yeah, okay.
I think it's appropriate to do so as well, keep people informed. Thank you, Jay. And Beth. Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded to recommend Article 2 from the selectmen. Did we vote on this? No.
No, we
did
didn't
not,
vote.
right? I call to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0 on recommending Article 2 from the Board of Selectmen. FinCom will go back and review after this meeting. Okay, who's at Article 3? That's me. Okay. We actually have 5 motions on this, but we're only gonna cover 3 tonight because we're moving into executive session tonight on 2 of them. So I'm just going to read 3 motions, all
So
right?
Jim, before you do this, either discuss with Sean or tell him, or make a motion to divide it into 5 motions, just so that there's the right kind of procedure.
Gotcha.
We can talk to him just before the meeting.
Just before meeting on this? Thank you, Jenny. Okay, so I will read. On motion 3 is where I start for tonight. When we do town meeting, provided everything's up in agreement, I will read all 5 motions. So motion 3 reads, subject is union contracts, dispatchers union. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,100 for the purpose of funding a collective bargaining agreement with the Hanson Police Dispatchers, AFSCME, Council 93, Local 1700, Hanson Police Dispatchers Union for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2020. That will be motion 3. Motion 4 reads, union contracts, fire union. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $56,000 for the purpose of funding a collective bargaining agreement with the Hanson Permanent Firefighters Association, AFL-CIO, Local 2713, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2020. And motion 5, subject, union contracts, highway union. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000. You guys might have a different amount in your books, but it is $12,000 for the purpose of funding a collective bargaining agreement with the Hanson Highway Employees, AFSCME, Council 93, Local 1700, Hanson Highway Union, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2020. Okay, so for this item, we had it on place only, and I think we're gonna keep it on place only until after we meet tonight. That make sense?
Right.
Right? Yes?
Can you
Mike?
highlight those amounts again for the
Certainly.
motions?
Certainly. Motion 3 is $8,100, and that is for the union contracts dispatchers union. Union contracts for the fire union is $56,000 even. And for the union contracts highway union, it's $12,000 even. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, terrific. Moving on to Article 4. All right.
I move the town to vote to amend Article 9 of the May 2017 annual town meeting, the transfer station enterprise fund expense for fiscal year 18 as follows. Do you want me to read the budgeted? You want to read that?
I would read the amounts, if you
Okay.
can. Please.
Budgeted
That's
was,
printed in the warrant.
it's printed in the warrant, is fine?
Okay. I thought maybe some people at home might want to know, but that's okay. Wouldn't matter, right? You giving back money or no?
Yes, we are.
Didn't you want to say that?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
I mean, that's a good thing, right? Okay. Why don't we move on? Article 5. Proposed by the fire chief.
I move the town vote to transfer $9,476 from free cash to satisfy the town's obligation in association with a federal grant for a new fire department vehicle.
All right.
You want the explanation? or-
No, I think we're good. Unless anybody asks, they can just speak up, say, hold, we would like to read the explanation, all right? All right, but and that was voted, that was placed and recommended. Article 5 is done. Article 6, Jerry again.
I move the town vote to transfer $10,000 from free cash to be added to the amount appropriated in the May 2017 annual town meeting, Article 5, line 40, fire expenses.
All right, terrific. And moving on to Article 6, you're up again, Jerry. 7, forgive me, 7.
I move the town vote to amend Article 15, line number 1 of the May 1st, 2017 annual town meeting to broaden the scope of the prospective purchase to include either self-contained breathing apparatus bottles or the town's share of a federal grant to replace all self-contained breathing apparatus.
Did we get that through a grant, didn't we, Jerry?
We're not sure, so we have the money for the bottles,
Yeah?
but right up until they expire, there's a possibility we could get a grant.
I
So I
get
want to
you.
be able to
Yep.
clarify that.
All right, thank you. Article 8, Police Chief Mike Nix.
That's gonna go for me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I move the town vote to transfer 10,000 from free cash for the purpose of upgrading the current security management system at the police station.
All right. No further questions. That was placed and held, recommended.
Article 9, I move the town vote to transfer 25,000 from free cash for a backup and disaster recovery server and software for town hall.
Okay, and that one still gonna be,
Sure. I just had a question, but is there, anyone could break this down, the 25,000? Because I know we had some of the detail, but we didn't get
I'll
it.
send you the quote.
Thank you.
Is that why it's on hold?
We have, just a further follow-up on that point. We did get a breakdown, because there was a question in regards to one-time expenses versus expenses we need to think about as going budget, operating budget going forward. We received a breakdown of the cost of the server of $10,000 to be located at Town Hall, licenses and maintenance of $8,000, installation of $3,600, and off-site storage backup of $2,200. And the remaining question we had on this was just trying to clarify
Maintenance.
one-time expenses
Yeah.
versus items to consider for the budget going forward.
Mike, do you know those offhand or
No, I don't, but I'll get it to you.
There is an expense for the maintenance. And I wanted to clarify that, and I'm sorry I didn't get back to you on that, Mike, but I have that into MX to make sure that I have that number.
It's a good question. So that'll be good. We'll talk more on that on Monday. All right, Article 10.
I vote the town move to transfer $12,000 from free cash to conduct a classification study for administrative positions.
Okay, next is Article 11.
I move the town vote to transfer $6,500 from free cash to conduct a commercial appraisal of the McCon Elementary School.
All right, next one we have is Article 12. This is-
I move the town vote to support the planning and eventual creation of the municipal park on a portion of the former Plymouth County Hospital.
Okay, is this the non-binding vote, Mike?
Yep.
Right, okay. All right, Article 13. Community CPC, is anybody from the CPC?
I believe they're still in a meeting right now.
Oh, okay. Laura, do you want to read what you have on there? Do you want to or no? I didn't know if you.
I think they may be passing
I think
over.
I'm on the CPC.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we're going to hold off on that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be a Passover. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
That was Article 13, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, I wrote on my notes past, so I should have said that. I'm sorry about that. Okay. All right, moving on. Article 14.
We just go back to 13, do you guys want to vote on Passover, since the board just recommended a place?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, because we voted to place only, so I would entertain a motion to support the CPC's request to pass over Article 13.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? All right, can I ask why? You just not ready yet? Need more time?
All
Just be
those,
ready for Monday.
There was some technical.
there was some technical
There was some
beginning
technical,
on some of the numbers.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's all I needed. Thank you. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0 on passing over Article 13. Article 14. We good, Mary?
Yes.
To move on?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Article 13, the Finance Committee actually voted 3-1 to recommend.
14.
Excuse me, Article 14.
14? Okay. So it says 4-0, it should be 3-1?
3-1.
All right, I'm with you. Who's reading Article 14? The Highway Building Committee. Kenny, is that you?
Yeah, Kenny, do you have that one?
I don't really know.
No, didn't Highway send,
I'm sorry?
did Highway send up,
That's Highway Building Committee. This is not Highway.
Yeah, that's why we're thinking it's Kenny.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. That's okay.
So let's see how you do, winging it.
Just wing it.
Oh, you don't have it?
No, I haven't done it either.
Well, he
So-
doesn't have it written up, but
Can
you
you
can
read what's
kind
on
of
it? Do we have in
improvise.
front of
Yeah.
us?
Yes.
Want to read what's up?
So you want to, transfer from free cash is what you
Okay, transfer from free cash, the town vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds the sum of money to conduct the assessment study on the highway facility located on Indian Head Street.
You can read the.
Estimated amount is $28,000.
Yeah.
These funds will be used to determine the cost of removal and future use of the existing highway facility. So moved.
Okay, so we already voted on that one.
Okay.
That's okay, brother, no worries. And the FinCom voted 3-1. What was the one against? Could I ask or no? Could I ask for the reason why?
Regarding Article 14 or 15?
14.
I voted against on Article 14.
Just because you don't think that,
Based on the explanation, the committee, you'll find on Article 15, voted unanimously to not recommend myself for Article 14, because I'm not in support of 15, I'm not in support of studying to remove the facility.
I
So
got
I
you.
voted.
I was interested in hearing, I just wanted to hear if anything was earth-shattering that we should know about. That's why I'm asking. I'm sure if it was, the others would have probably followed suit too. That's why I was asking, not to be personal, okay? But you know what, the town, somebody from the town probably could certainly ask that anyway, so.
Frankly, I think almost, you guys know this, almost every town meeting, somebody will say, I want to know why FinCom voted, you know.
It was 15 or something.
They used to it, yeah.
So it was a good practice, right?
There you go. It was a practice run.
Article
We'll
15,
talk, yeah, go ahead, you can move it.
Article 15. Kenny, did you want to do that one?
I don't have it, but we can wing it.
Go ahead, just read from this and then read the explanation, because it's not that long.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of money to develop final engineered plans of a new highway facility at Hawks Ave. And I'll read the explanation on this.
Yes.
These funds will be used to develop the final plans and determine the cost for relocating the highway facility to Hawks Ave. Estimate is $463,000
From free cash, right?
from free cash.
Okay, so we had two discrepancies. The Board of Selectmen voted to recommend, FinCom voted 4-0 not to recommend. Okay? Are there any questions on this?
I think in their defense, they don't have enough information on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna,
You can get them info and they can change.
we'll talk about that later after the meeting.
Is that your sense that you don't have enough information, or you know what you need to know in your
We don't know
head?
what we don't know apparently.
Right.
I think our
Yeah, I
chair
mean,
can speak to this question.
Based on the available information at hand, really things that we kept coming back to were, we've already, we're talking about a sizable sum of money for something that potentially could not yield any return if the final approval for full costs of this is not approved by the town. I'm very hesitant to use the word gamble, but it's a very much an inherent risk of placing $463,000 that could yield no return for the town.
So if we do the study and then we don't move forward with it, we will have,
Lost $463,000.
I just want to make note that we don't even own this building yet.
And that's another point of ours.
okay, and that is true, but Mike, can you walk us through what the timeline, or Kenny, or to whomever may
We
concern?
can amend the question to, make sure that once it's conveyed over to the
Because
town.
I asked that question, Beth, because I don't want to be spending money on a building we technically don't even have title
Why would
to.
you do it before?
But I was told that we would, the way that this would be structured would be that we would not be spending until the title had been conveyed.
Kenny and I discussed
Yeah.
a potential amendment to the article, to the motion, in which the verbiage would be added contingent upon town conveyance of the land to the town, conveyance of the land to the town of Hanson.
It doesn't really address your issue, Mike, would you?
No, actually, we have multiple points
Okay,
that were our
yeah.
concern, and that was actually point number 2, is
Okay.
talking about spending money on a property
Yeah.
that we don't have a deed
We
to.
had discussed that, yeah.
And quickly, the other, points that we were talking about were, and this is probably falls under your other information categories. We've already appropriated over $28,000 for engineering studies on this property. And now we're looking to do an extra $463,000 So again, taking the first point further, it's actually, it's, you know, if you're talking, what, 480 and almost $490,000 that potentially of taxpayer money that could yield no return to the benefit of the town. Our last point was, what we discussed was, when this was presented at town meeting, there was discussion by the engineer basically saying, once this building goes dark, deterioration could go very quickly if we're not, and that's a good year and a half ago. That was a concern with us, more so not to the overall quality of the building, but again, going to the final costs that would take potentially something manageable to a much higher number, and that probably was kind of the case when we talked about this previously. So they were kind of the summary of the points that, as to why we were not comfortable recommending this article.
Okay. So,
Mike, is it possible you could forward those summary of points to Mike McHugh so that he could forward it to us?
So we have a copy of them right here.
Thank you so very much. In defense of what's going on here too, I think the wording that we read was not exact in terms of what we're going to prepare to say, right, Kenny? Because Kenny usually, because the yellow sheets that we read from have more verbiage and are certainly different than what we're actually reading here. So I'm imagining that the yellow spreadsheet would have said something.
The article, you can't change the.
Yeah.
No, and I agree, but I'm saying that I'm wondering if the yellow sheet would have said something contingent upon land transfer to Hanson.
but that would have only been in the explanation, that's what Beth's trying to say. The article is the article because we closed the warrant, like this is the article.
It can be in the motion.
It'd be in the motion,
Okay.
is what I'm saying, yes. That's what
Or
I'm
the
saying.
motion would need to be amended as written, so.
Right.
It,
So-
you know, to everyone's point, that's not the way it was written and put on the warrant, but,
I do think it's vitally important to make it clear that we're not going to spend that amount of money on something we don't have the title to. We did discuss this as a group. And Kenny, I know that's not your intention. I know that I think when you explained it to us, Kenny, you had.
that you don't own.
Yeah, when you explained it to us, you said, like, the article, the reason we wanted to put it on now was to try to sort of get ahead of the fact that we'll get the title conveyed. I don't know what the timing is, January or something, February?
Yeah.
And then we'll be ready to go out of the gate to do this engineering versus waiting till
And
May.
then we'll have the
to-
actual cost of what the building's gonna be for any
Right,
town meeting.
yeah. And Kenny, I don't know if you want to take this opportunity to articulate the difference between the prior amount that was allocated and what that was used for versus what this is going to be used for?
The first amount was for Weston and Sampson to give us an idea of the cost of what it's gonna cost to transfer of that building from empty space into offices and.
That's the
you know,
28,000, right?
That's the 28,000, into a shop, and so that's what that money's for. And they're still currently working with us. They've been working with us for probably it's been almost 2 years. So that's what that money. This money is for the final design and engineering for the building. So what we want to do is, once the property is conveyed, and we can make that, Mike, we can make that change to the motion. Once the property is conveyed, and it looks like it's gonna be January to be conveyed over to the town, we want to be able to do an RFP to find out exactly what this building's gonna cost. So there's no issues at all. We're gonna do an RFP, find out the exact cost, and then come back in May, and we'll be able to come in and say, the building's gonna cost X. Because right now, this Weston and Sampson is seeing fluctuations in the cost of highway projects over the past year. So the worst thing is for us to come in and say, we need X amount to build this building, and it's not enough. So we're just trying to get a little bit ahead of the curve, because we're delayed about a year on this project. You know, and Mike, you're right, what the engineer said about the building sitting, the longer it sits, then, you know, the more money you're gonna have to put into it.
I think he said within about 2.5 years it would start to deteriorate. He didn't
Yeah,
define.
right
how
now, the
much.
building
Right.
is still
Yeah.
structurally sound right now.
Yeah, and to your point, we didn't have specific notes of that. He said this on this specific date,
Yeah.
but the overall point was there's a concern that costs could escalate of more than needed if we had done it a year ago or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Right. But I'll be up after
Yep.
to explain in detail.
And I think the explanation of each will help too.
Yeah.
All
Hey,
right.
I'm sorry,
Sure.
are you planning on doing a little presentation?
Yes.
Okay, so that may add some, you
Yes,
know,
we'll be,
color
we're gonna do
commentary to the whole
probably
thing.
a 7-minute
Okay.
presentation.
Okay.
And I'll have the engineers and architect from Weston and Sampson, and also from Hubble. There'll be an engineer from Hubble that'll be there as well.
make sure they work with the appropriate parties for the PowerPoint or demo, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you handle all that.
Okay, so, all right. Moving on to Article 16 is proposed by the school committee. Do we have anybody from the school committee here? I didn't see
Let's see.
Bob Hayes. so-
I'll read that
Got
one,
it.
Mr. Chairman. I move the town vote to transfer $30,725 from amount appropriated to Article 35 of the October 2014 special town meeting, Indian Head School lintels, and $37,725 from Article 11, Item 6 of the May 2016 annual town meeting, McQuon School repairs, to fund the following school repair projects as printed in the warrant.
Okay, any questions on that? And that was,
Was a total 68,450?
yes.
Yep.
And that was supported by both FinCom and Board of Selectmen. Moving on to Article 17 from the Recreation. Do we have anybody from that?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got a couple
I didn't,
people.
I thought I was even, sorry.
It's okay.
Moving to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Recreation Enterprise Fund retained earnings a sum of money for the purpose of engineering plans for the Cranberry Cove dock system, of the pilings and all necessary related work, or take any other action in relation thereto.
But no, that wasn't 17.
That was 18.
That was 18. I
Is
think.
anyone doing
It's 18.
17 was we from you also.
I apologize.
That's okay. So,
I have 18.
I know, I did up there 17, 18. I had no idea who was doing,
You did motions, Bob?
I did motions for the people who asked me to.
Oh,
okay.
Mary, one thing on 17, I noticed in the explanation, we're missing a zero. It should be 250,000 in the explanation. Or 25, I don't know what the dollar amount is.
I have a question on that too.
But either way, there's something missing.
So it should be by the same person, but I don't think you knew Diane, is that right?
I apologize, yes.
That's okay.
I can read it, it relates to the septic system.
Please.
And see if the town will vote to authorize the treasurer collector on behalf of the Recreation Commission to borrow a sum of money to supplement the amounts appropriated in Article 11, Item 8 of the May 2016 annual town meeting to replace the septic system at Camp Kawani or take any other action in relation thereto.
Could you just give us a quick explanation, because
We need a new septic.
no, you can read it, if you
Okay.
will. Just a
These
lot.
additional funds are needed for the engineering and installation of new septic system. The estimated cost right now is $125,000.
so that's been increased because we're still waiting for the bids to come in.
Oh, we're waiting for other bids?
We're waiting for the bids, which will be in until Thursday. So we put 250 down for right now for borrow.
That's not what I have, I'm sorry.
I know, you wouldn't have it.
Okay.
That's okay, that's why we work it out. Mike?
For clarification, this as a borrowing, the prior appropriation would be 75,000, so from a clarification of the estimated amount, I think it probably would be better if we were to
Break
explain
it
what
down.
is being borrowed versus the total cost of the project.
Yes.
As the town accountant said to me, we'll know what the number is.
When the bids.
And just because we say we're gonna borrow that amount, we may not necessarily need that amount.
Right. But if I see this as 250, given what I know about this, I'm inclined to think that's the all-in for the total project, as opposed to somebody else may say, why are we borrowing up to 250?
So we'll have more details. I think it should be itemized more, right? And you're right, I would think that the 250 would be all
Yeah,
inclusive.
there was 75,000 appropriated at a prior town meeting, so that combined with the borrowing would be the total cost of the project
Yep.
based on the final bids.
Yeah, the current amount that we have is about 56,000 after some engineering was done, so it'd be the 56. We'd start with the 56,000, and then, whatever additional monies we needed for the low responsible bid would be the amount of money we would actually request on town meeting floor. And we had timed it as such, though, so that we would have, here's the bid, this is the amount of money we need, $250,362.17. So town meeting knows exactly what the figure is.
Okay. And just for the committee's clarification, and Mike and I had a conversation with this, and while those amounts are fluctuating a little bit based on final bids, our committee overall is very supportive of this.
But I do think it's a good idea to itemize it and put in the reminder of the 75 as well as Mike's point on the 56, okay? We'll probably beef up the explanation on that. If not, I'm sure it'll be asked at town meeting.
Oh, it'll be fully explained.
Diane, you read the 18 already. That was the plans for the dock system, folks.
Right.
So I think we're good with that one, are we? Or does anybody want to read it again?
Anybody need the explanation?
No, I think that was pretty simple.
Okay, thank you.
Article 19. This is the recreation again, Diane, you're up. You know if you have it or no?
Yes, Ryan.
I move the town to vote to transfer from the recreation enterprise retained earnings the sum of $15,900 for study of the grounds and buildings, including exterior, interior, gas, plumbing, electric, and underground services, to determine the matrix system and the upkeep and repairs necessary in properly maintaining the entire historic site of East Camp Kawani.
All right, great. So, thank you, Brian. And that is for the, you saved $16,500, right?
He said 15.
You say 15? Okay, so,
Is that because we got it finalized? Okay.
so it went from 15 to 16.5, so it was approximate to 15, right?
It's 16.5 to 15. He's nailed it to 15.
Oh, it's down.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Okay, in my book it said the 16, so that's better. That's why we do this, right?
And we only voted to place this because we didn't have the final dollar amount.
That's right. So now that we have the final dollar amount, and it says should be 15,000 on your matrices there, guys, right? I would entertain a 15.9. Thank you.
15.9?
Thank you, Beth. So it should be 15.9. I would entertain a motion to recommend Article 19.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there further questions? So this amount, again, on what we're looking at, it says 16,500. The number is actually changed to 15,000, excuse me. The number we're looking at is 16,500. The number has changed to 15,900. Okay? Any questions?
No, I just want to say this is critically important. It's going to lay out for them, and it's going to really provide, you know, a roadmap for them of how to prioritize, so that when we do get the staff up there that they need to get things done, they're going to have, you know, a plan.
Yep.
So I think it's great.
Okay. Article 20.
We didn't vote yet.
Oh, we didn't vote for to,
Moved and seconded.
we got to vote to recommend, we
Yeah.
did, right?
Yeah.
Let's call the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0 to recommend. And FinCom will take that back with them, I take it.
Yes, we didn't have the amounts until right now.
Article 20 is Highway. Proposed by the Highway Surveyor. Mr. Bob Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the town vote to transfer free cash, a sum of $10,000 to replace the brush mowing at another department's trackless vehicle.
All right, and that was both recommended and placed by both parties, by FinCom and Selectmen.
Excuse me, Bob, who's going to read your motion?
That was just a hammer.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave Hamlin will read. Okay, moving on to Article 21, Board of Selectmen.
I move the town vote to borrow the sum of $750,000 in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, Subsection 7, to be used for design services to advance the McQuon Street Route 14 reconstruction project as presently being reviewed by the Project Review Committee.
Okay. And that one required two-thirds vote, right?
Yes.
As stated here, so.
You don't need to read the whole thing?
What, on the explanation?
No, no, no.
Oh, committee, parentheses, PRC to the plan design phase.
Thank you.
Are people going to know what the PRC is?
He reads.
The Project Review Committee.
I know he's reading the words out loud, but are they going to know who that applies to?
I'm not sure.
Do
what-
people even care? I don't know.
What do you mean? I'm not sure I
Well, it's a
understand the question.
capitalized term, and it refers, I believe, back to the people that review the complete streets, right? I mean, but I don't know that somebody sitting in the audience is gonna know who the heck the PRC is.
Laurie, are they the people from Old Colony Planning?
No,
Yes. MassDOT?
This is a
Well, we went over this at Board of Selectmen meeting, so you're telling me that they're not watching our meeting?
It's possible, Mr. Chairman, that not everybody's riveted by our meetings. It's possible.
I don't think
We'll refer them back to our meeting, okay?
All right.
They better be watching our meetings, right? All right. Article 22, who's up?
That's me.
Laura.
I move the town vote to transfer $25,000 from free cash to be added to stabilization.
We do that every town meeting, don't we? Am I right, Beth? Don't we, or no?
Try to.
We try to, yeah.
When we've got it, we do.
Okay, I think the next, oh, it's actually me. I figured Donnie, because they're all water, but okay. You're giving us, spreading out the work here.
Fine.
Article 23, Jim McGann, I move the town vote to transfer $10,000 from free cash to be added to the Regional School Capitalization Fund as established by the October 2014 special town meeting. This is Article 23, correct? Yes,
Yep.
it is. Any questions on that? That was both placed and recommended by both FinCom and Board of Selectmen. Okay, moving on to Article 24.
I move to pass over Article 24.
Okay, pass.
The board just placed, does the board want to vote to pass over as well?
Yes. I would entertain a motion to pass over Article 24 as recommended by Dawn. Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
I got that.
You got, yes.
We're getting near the end. Everybody's getting eager, right? There we go. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Donnie, you want to just tell us why we're passing or no?
It hasn't been placed on the master yet, and
On the
it
CIC?
won't be straightened out until May town meeting.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, motion been made. Any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0 to pass on Article 24. Article 25.
Yeah, I gotta read, I gotta,
We get our money's worth out of you this time, huh?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
I move the town, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, or raise through borrowing $500,000 for the installation of water mains on various streets
24
throughout
is
the
reading
town
this.
of,
No, I think that's 24.
No, Don, you're reading the article. That's not the motion.
25, you know what I mean?
oh, yeah, okay.
That's okay.
You're ahead of yourself. Yeah, no, you're good.
Article 25, that's where you want to be. You're
Your
there.
next motion will be on white paper, Don.
Oh, I see it, okay.
That messed us up.
It's my eyes, excuse for the interim.
We ran out of yellow paper, sorry.
I move the town vote to transfer $150,000 from water surplus to be added to Article 25 of the May 1st, 2017 annual town meeting to replace several water gates throughout the town water system that are not working properly.
All right. Moving on.
Just keep going,
26.
Don, you get the next
Well,
half hour practically.
No, I hope not. I move the town vote to transfer from water surplus $25,000 to replace the porch at the Water Department office, 1073 West Washington Street.
Okay, on to 27, Donnie. I don't think there's any questions on that one.
I move the town vote to transfer from water surplus $10,000 for one pump and two motors for the Crystal Spring well field.
Okay,
If they want an explanation, I'll read it.
that's okay, Donnie. I think it's pretty clear.
Article 28, I move the town vote to transfer from water surplus $150,000 to purchase the new 20-year-old truck.
To purchase a new truck to replace the 20-year-old. What do you got for 29, Donnie?
I've got to it right here. I got too many papers in this book, I can see that. I move the town vote to transfer from water surplus $30,000 to purchase a new surge control valve for the deep well. That's number one well that we have.
Okay. And last but not least, Don
The
Howard.
30,
Number 30.
I move the town vote to transfer $20,000 from water surplus to rehabilitate well field at the Crystal Spring well field.
well, number 4, right, Donnie?
You didn't get anything from historical, right?
Okay, so
You get anything from historical?
I think you need to check with Mike, put in for a raise, Don, free cash.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, that'd be nice.
Article 31 is the Historical Commission. Is anybody here from Historical?
No, I'll read that.
Mike?
To see if the town will transfer from free cash the amount of $9,000 for the repair of the Thomas Mill wheel.
Right. That's terrific. Next, I think we're on the last one? Is this right or no? No.
Oh, no.
No, we got 40. I'm sorry, I just stopped here on this page. Item 32 is Town Forest. Anybody here from that, or Mike, you want to be the Town
Yeah,
Forest?
I'll read that as well. We will have somebody there.
Here's a motion.
I move to see if the town will vote to dissolve the Hanson Town Forest Committee and to designate the Conservation Commission to perform all the functions of said committee and manage all designated town forests.
Nice. Okay, moving on to Article 33. This is Conservation.
Phil's in the meeting, so I'll do it for him.
Thank you, Laurie.
I move to vote,
Did you,
Yeah, you're having a conversation.
sorry, Laurie.
I move the town vote to place the property identified as Assessors Map 105, Parcel 7, under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission for the purpose of wildlife, recreation, forestry, or to take any other action in relative to.
All right, very good. Are there any questions on that one?
Who's doing that one? Phil? I think so, at the last town meeting, they had already voted to place the forest under the care and custody of conservation.
This
And when-
parcel, too?
Oh, no, I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
I'm thinking
no,
the
that's the
forest.
town
Yeah, they did vote to place the literal forest, but now we're talking about the committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Lori, the statute requires that if there is no committee, then the Concom be designated. It's just tying up all the loose ends.
Article 34 is from the Board of Selectmen, Kenny Mitchell.
I move the town vote to accept the provisions of the following Massachusetts general laws in accordance with the Massachusetts Municipal Modernization Act as printed in the warrant.
Okay. That was a lengthy one, so that one, Article 35, Recreation.
Recreation?
I had this one.
Yep.
Okay.
I move that the town vote to amend the Hanson General Bylaws, Article 3-8, Town Property, Section 6A, by deleting the following: except for the lodge at Camp Kawani when functions are in progress.
You want to just give us the explanation? real
Yeah,
quick?
it's basically the only place in town that you can still smoke in a building. So I'm a little upset that this one is, somebody might be playing a joke, but,
Yeah, somebody, ironic said.
We should have
I
a meeting
swear,
over there?
I swear to God, it just fell that way.
I'm sure
honest
it
to
did,
God,
Mary.
did.
I'm sure it did. I've been to many functions there where I could go outside and have a cigarette. There's a spot right where you can go, so I have no problem with this at all. Very funny.
That was Article 35. Article 36, Wage and Personnel.
I move the town vote to amend the Hanson General Bylaws, Article 2-12, Classification and Compensation, Section 1C, exclusions, by inserting a new subsection F is printed in the warrant.
All right, we have Article 37, also Wage and Personnel.
I move the town vote to amend the Hanson General Bylaws, Article 2-12, Classification and Compensation, Section 11A, Professional Positions as printed in the warrant.
Article 38, I believe is me. I move the town vote to amend the Hanson General Bylaws, Article 2-12, Classification and Compensation, Section 12D, Vacation Leave, by deleting Section A, subsection 1 in its entirety, and inserting in its place the as verbiage as printed in the warrant. Does anybody want me to read that, or no?
Yeah, we just need to lose that as.
All right.
You have an
we're just
extra
gonna-
as in there.
Yeah, I
Jim.
crossed it out, sorry, Mary, no worries. Article 40. 39, forgive me. Article 39, I checked it off beforehand, sorry. This is the planning department, is it?
Joe Weeks.
Joe is here? Hey, Joe, congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I move the town vote to amend the town of Hanson County of Plymouth, Massachusetts land use regulations, zoning bylaw, section 7, by deleting subsection E, signs, and F, temporary signs, and replacing said sections with the following section E, permitted and prohibited signs as printed in the warrant.
We're gonna have a new, you're gonna have a new motion that's gonna, unless, did you guys
Yeah,
talk
so
about this?
we were just talking about this because of the changes that were developed to what was printed in the warrant. There's two ways to go. You could either say, move it as printed in the warrant with the exception of the following, and then read those, or you could say, as shown on your handout, which would be a little simpler, and we've already prepared that handout.
Gotcha, so that just got here, so,
Yeah.
do you want me to read that one out loud?
No, but I'll have the motion for you.
When you do a town meeting, just be ready for it.
Yeah, it's just, it'll be on the table so people and the moderator can do that. It's a little simpler and easier rather than trying to walk people through. And to be inserted on, at the end of paragraph X.
Like we normally do?
Just trying to simplify.
It'll make it easier.
There's actually two different
Oh, yeah,
places that
absolutely.
they've changed. Oh, really? I
Yes.
didn't have a chance to read it.
Yeah, because I did find one, and then you brought that, I'm like, oh, it's changed there too. It's basically the same verbiage in section 2, but it's also in section 3, added on to section 3 as well. And it would be easy enough to put in, but I'm not sure whichever way you guys can do it. I don't care as long as it's legal.
Kind of nice so people aren't flipping pages. It's a long bylaw. Everyone has one sheet and they have questions to ask the planning, and everyone's working off of a simple script. For bigger zoning changes, it can be kind of tidy that way.
Yeah, makes sense.
If you want to, on the same handout, I'll leave it to Lori and the planning board, if you have explanations as to why, you could always kind of use that opportunity to say why you're doing it.
Because there was no explanation in the warrant for this article.
If you want to, otherwise you can just,
No, I appreciate it, thank you very much.
And this does require a 2/3 vote, which also wasn't in the warrant.
Okay, so I need to add 2/3 vote to it.
Yeah, so
I didn't see, where does it say it requires 2/3 vote?
it doesn't.
It doesn't, that's what she's saying, I have to
She's
put
It
that
does,
in.
it should be posted on there, I gotcha.
zoning always.
Okay, any other questions or comments on that one? No. Moving on to Article 40, planning also. Joe?
I move the town vote to amend the town of Hanson County of Plymouth, Massachusetts land use regulation zoning bylaw, section 7, by adding subsection B7, sign site plan review as printed in the warrant.
This does require 2/3 vote as well. And what will we do, the same thing with the flyer?
No, you don't need it, this one is
pretty small enough to read
It's much shorter.
Excuse me, thank you.
All right. Are we, I think we're through, right, folks?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming on this. That concludes the review of the October 2017 town meeting warrants. Town meeting articles for the warrant. Why don't we take we'll take a 3-minute recess. Why don't we do that? Okay, we're ready. We're back in session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are waiting for, we're going to move to committee reports on our agenda. Mr. Howard on Monpont Pond Committee.
On Monday, September 18th, the Mass DEP collected water samples from east and west Monpont ponds. In the east, Monpont Pond showed cyanobacteria of only 1,553. That was to do with all the rain we had. But East Lake is the cleanest one of the two anyway. West Monpont Pond at the beach was 9,899. And at the boat ramp, I believe it was, no, yeah, the boat ramp was 42,749. So they are under the level of 70,000 cells per million, but everything is still closed in the pond.
Thank you, Tony. Next, we have the final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee.
We'll have that tomorrow night. I don't think there's anything new from the last week that we had any.
Okay.
Was there, Mike? There wasn't
No,
anything?
I think, they're just about finishing
We've
up.
got a
with-
meeting here tomorrow night. Anybody's welcome, 4 o'clock.
Finishing up with the piles. They're going to address that little bit of work on the chimney and fireplace that we decided to retain. They're going to take the brick down. And I just had mentioned at the last meeting, we're looking to do some repairs and take a look at the extension building.
And they're going to take down the tower too?
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to take the tower down.
Do you have an idea?
So that's going to be completed this week,
Yeah.
right?
Tower down this week, yeah?
Yep.
Great. Who, the guy take it, who bought it?
No,
Us, right?
we had given them several months to come and get it. I believe the gentleman was from the Atlantic, somewhere down in the Mid-Atlantic. I went through the auctioneer. He reached out to him on several occasions, and the last information I got from the auctioneer is just remove it at this point, so.
Okay. Thank you. Next item we have, by the way, we're doing some sort of a presentation at town meeting on Plymouth County Hospital, right? We are definitely.
A small one, 5 minute, I
ones.
believe.
Okay. Next item we have is the McQuon School Reuse Committee.
I think Mary and Mike are working on scheduling that, and we're planning on, I think, meeting sometime next week or the following week. Mr. Hayes had contacted me. I suggested that he contact you guys as well, saying that he thought that the school committee, namely, that he should be part of the committee, and I said, well, of course we were planning on somebody from the school committee
Yeah.
being part of it, and we also thought that Mr. Sandland would be part of those conversations. And we have no intention of duplicating the efforts that have already been spent figuring out what's going on with the school. There are other things we need to figure out in addition to what they've looked at, but, so anyway, if you guys can just,
Make sure they're in.
Yeah, it was-
make sure they're included.
It was my understanding, and I'll follow up on it, that they were actually, we were waiting on their next meeting to vote to appoint someone to that, so we'll
Okay.
follow up. And there was another thing I wanted to bring up in regards to that. Just fell out of my head, but yeah, we'll follow up on that.
Okay.
It makes the most amount of sense, as we discussed, to do it after town meetings.
Okay, thank you.
And next we have the Hanson School Repair Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I am in the process, Mary gave me the list of members of that, and I spoke to a couple of members of that committee already, and we're in the process of getting a meeting together. So
Go
it'll,
forward, sure.
yeah, it'll be, most likely the end of October, open meeting, that type of thing, just like any other meeting, but.
Okay.
Do you think you're gonna need more members?
Yeah, I think you will, Mike, Jim, and the reason why is because Chris Howard and Mike
Jones.
Jones are
Both on the school
committee, right.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough trying to either get new members or trying to work it out.
Can't they be on both or no? I thought
They
could
were in the
still be-
past.
They could still be on if you want. I
Well, they
mean,
can
could, but
still
how
be on
many,
they can't be, Bruce?
The makeup of that committee is one school committee
Yeah.
one member of the Board of Selectmen, and
5 citizens at large?
and the others are members of citizens.
Yeah, but they had the experience too. That's a down. We're gonna miss them on that, right?
so this is really making me, so Jim's gonna need people for that. We've got a recreation commission. Can we plan on talking at our next meeting about some kind of recruitment? Because our committees are really desperately in need of additional people. So we need some kind of recruitment or PR campaign or educational campaign or,
What we did in a previous town in which I was employed is we had an open house on a Saturday, and we invited interested residents to come in and have a discussion, offline, informal, with members of the various boards and committees that were looking for people. It was somewhat successful. It's still difficult, obviously, to get people not only to join a board, but attend something like that. But, I mean, that's a thought, just off the top of my head. We bought, I think, I forget where we get the funds for it, but we had coffee and pastry and things of that nature. And it was, like I said, it was more or less like a drop-in thing. It wasn't be here at 9. We'll be here from 9 to 11, and anyone who's interested, stop by for a few minutes and we can have a discussion and you can decide whether you want to apply or not. We can look at doing something like that. It just
Maybe we
off the
could
top
even
of
do
my
it on a
head.
Tuesday night, just before Selectmen's meeting, like a 5 to 7 or something, for people that commute. But I think, because a lot of these may seem very daunting, like, you think, oh my gosh, I don't have time in my life to commit to a committee. But I think if people really knew, like, hey, they meet once a month, it's a 2-hour meeting, this isn't a lifetime commitment, people might be more willing to join.
And that's sort of an event, or that sort of a thing would, it would avail itself of that sort of, again, informal conversation. Yeah, it's once a month, and this is what the expectations are, and
I thought, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that I know Mike Jones in his capacity as a school member board is that, I get it, but he can't wear another hat saying he's also.
The thought behind that was you didn't want too many stakeholders on either side. You wanted independent people looking at the whole situation to give it a fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but if we're short and desperate on people, actually, what we could try, Laura, is the Hanson Business Network might have members who like roofing and do something like that. That might be interested in going to the meeting, so that might be where you get your people.
Yeah.
From the Hanson Business Network.
Okay.
So you might be able to get like Mike Jones did air systems, didn't he?
Yeah.
Pretty sure he did
Yeah.
air systems and stuff. And Chris Howard he was a smart guy,
I mean, again, we can talk about it, but I would go as far as to say, can we do an article in the Express, or perhaps an ad in the Express, or
cable,
something like that, but we need to really get the word out.
Well, I actually had spoken with someone at Cable the other day in regards to they want me to, not so much an interview, but they wanted to have me do something on camera. I can do that as well.
But I'm hoping that might be a good idea for somebody from the business network who might want to, indirectly plug their business too.
If we got a PR piece, or like something that we're gonna put in the Express, or that we'd put on Cable, then I'll make sure that the network gets it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That might
yeah.
be, and that's maybe where you get your people, Jim, for the ones that you can't get, you know what I'm saying, so.
Do you have a Facebook page?
Hanson Business Network does, the town doesn't, and that's a whole different situation for a different day. You trying to be controversial today, Diane?
I don't have, I'm not on Facebook, I don't want to try to do it. He was like, oh, I heard it on Facebook, found it on Facebook.
All right, so we're going to, thank you, Jim. So the Highway Building Committee, we are going to omit because obviously Mr. Mitchell is not here. And the 200th Anniversary Committee, Mrs.
We're meeting
Kemet.
Thursday, and I'm expecting, Marcus Lynn is so energetic, and he's the man for the job, that I'm expecting that we'll have something positive to report the next time that we meet.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, so we are without Kenny, we've done the best we can, I think, so we're going to move on to the next item under old business, okay? Do I have any objections to that? I'm not a dictator, we run a democracy here, right? At some point, okay. Discussion regarding the Recreation Director position. So we have an email from Emery Buzan, who says that the board voted last night, and this is last night, Monday, the 25th of September, 5-0, to have the Recreation Director position be a vendor position for the camp. If you kindly ask the board to accept our request, we would greatly appreciate it. And on top of that, she is attached meeting minutes from last night.
And we've got Diane here, too.
We've got Diane here.
Obviously.
And
I
these must
assume
be-
you were there.
These must be meeting minutes drafted, because they haven't accepted
They
them yet,
haven't
right?
accepted yet, it was just last night.
So these are draft minute meetings, and she states in it, The meeting was called to order to discuss the recreation director. Position's been discussed at previous meetings, but it was not officially voted on as a vendor position. It was mentioned that the Recreation Commission has discussed it being part-time, in discussion with the change in the job description. TA Mike McHugh requested a vote for the Recreation Commission to allow the Hanson Board of Selectmen to vendor the position out. Emery Buzan asked if there are any comments or suggestions, otherwise we can go to vote. Discussion on easier managing as well as hours. It was non-union position. Discussion on rates and benefits. I think that pretty much covers the gist of what was spoken to on these things, so. Chair Emery Buzan requested a verbal vote on the Board of Selectmen to vendor the position out under wage and personnel. And it was motioned and seconded, and the vote was 5-0. Are there any questions on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Is this a discussion, or are we discussing and then voting on what the rec fund wants to do? Because there's a big difference there.
I think if I'm not mistaken, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but according to what Mike read, what I read here from Mike, so he requested a vote from the Recreation Commission to allow the Hanson Board of Selectmen to vendor the position out, and by that, I would think it would require a vote from us. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes.
To the members of the board, Brian's left, right? He had to leave, okay, thank you.
So it's more than a discussion, as it says on the agenda.
Right, they can't unilaterally make that decision, they can make a recommendation to us, they can choose to make a recommendation to us, but we're the ones who own what type of a posting that ends up being.
Right. So we have a comment, Mr. Young.
My first question would be for the representative from the Recreation.
You have to speak up, sir, I'm sorry.
To the representative from the Recreation Commission.
You can call me Diane Bruce, it's okay.
Diane, I just want to put your title first, because that's important. What was the main thrust of why you wanted the vendor rather than putting out going to the position, for a salary position?
Okay. The main,
Through me, Diane, so you can.
the main reason we decided to go in this direction was because through the past experience, which happened to be somewhat of a negative experience, we changed the job description of a recreation director. After looking at everything with the campaigns, we decided that a position really needs two prongs to it. We need a facilities manager to oversee the maintenance and repair of the camp. And then someone to handle things like events and programming and all within our budget. So two very distinct skill sets in which we don't believe that one person would really be able to handle everything, and nor would it be fair. And so the recreation director position, we figured would not be a full-time position, particularly during what is considered the slow season up there. Being more busy during the summer and, wedding months for things like programming and planning events, things like that.
Could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So, did you guys weigh the pros and cons to vendor versus employee versus contractor?
We did. We figured that at any point in time, we possibly could revert the position back to a full-time position and one that isn't vendored out. But we feel that where we are a new board, where we have so much to do at that camp to get it, what we feel to do the necessary repairs that need to be done there, that we would like to go in this direction, and then if we get programming and the use of the camp into a nice rhythm, then maybe, we'll
So,
vendor it out somewhere
what
else.
would be, quick question, so, I guess maybe I need to phrase it better.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. What is the, you say vendor the position out, why not go full-time, why not do employee?
Okay, why not do employee? Because we figured we could open up to more people if they had the opportunity maybe to work more flexible hours, work from, even if they needed to work on the computer at home, and vendoring out, I think we agreed that they don't need the benefits, and that might save the town some money. And I know that there is concern that paying the hourly rate may incur more of a cost, but you might make it up on the other end with the benefits.
And of course, this is your opinion only,
I
probably.
don't have any facts,
Right.
because
Nothing to the, you're right.
So it's uncharted.
It's your opinion and you're
It is
entitled to your
uncharted
opinion.
territory, and it was the opinion of everybody that that might be the direction we should go in at this time, always keeping in mind that if we did need to make this a full-time position, one that the town is working, someone working directly for the town, we could go in that direction.
Hold on, Mr. Hickey.
Diane, I only had a couple of questions. One was about the facilities manager.
Yep.
Isn't that the job of the head caretaker?
No, the head caretaker, I believe, the job that needs to be done up there with the current state of the buildings needs someone with much more experience than the head caretaker position is
Could do.
described as, and that could do.
Right.
They need to have more experience with electrical, plumbing.
Well, the reason I asked that is because I was on the commission,
Right.
and the head caretaker wouldn't do any of that. If a particular project like putting a roof on would have to come before the commission, it may have been recommended by the head caretaker, but it would still have to be voted on by the commission, and then it would go out to bid. So a facilities manager wouldn't actually put the roof on anyway.
No.
No.
But we need a facilities study up there, which was one of the articles tonight. So we were thinking that a facilities manager could prioritize what could be taken care of by the current staff at the camp. And that a facilities manager would oversee the caretakers to make sure that all the work is getting done properly. And
My other,
They-
I'm sorry,
but-
Mr.
and
Chairman.
they- No, but you're correct, Jim, and we have a job description for each one, right?
Yes.
And they're not the same. They might be overlapping a bit, I would think, but not much.
which two, I'm sorry, which two job descriptions?
Facilities manager and the,
Head caretaker?
right, but the facilities manager that we're talking about is basically for the entire town, too, right?
Yes, because
So
this.
the focus on that was going to be that they could work up there, but the facilities manager, again, just a reminder, was for the entire town.
Initial priority to be.
At Camp Kawani.
Yeah, that would be a town-wide thing and not
Yes.
just for the
Right.
camp. My other question was, in the winter, or, as you called it, the slow time? No, that's fine, I was there. There is a slow time. But as a recreation director, wouldn't that be the time when the person, say in, right after the holidays, January, February, March, want to set this stuff up
Right,
for the summer?
they would be overseen, but still.
So
there
I
would be
wouldn't
some-
see any less hours because it's going to be a lot of soliciting, a lot of mailing, a lot of phone calls, so that the camp is busy over their summer. So I don't know so much about a slow time if it's a recreation.
Well, the slow time, they would be planning those things, and that would be the bulk of their phone calling and setting up and making appointments, things like that. When it was running, they would be overseeing it, but they wouldn't be doing the very hands-on things. You would,
So, I mean, that would be in the summer when they would actually be
so that you
able
can
to
reverse the slow versus.
work less hours
Right,
in the
that
summer.
person could, right,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
Need to-
It's, so Diane, are you, and again, I know this is uncharted territory, you guys
Right.
are, this is all a hypothesis that this will work.
And you're doing great. Don't be sorry.
And, so, I guess, in your mind, how many hours are you thinking that these
We were
guys are gonna?
thinking about 19 to 25 between, for the, anywhere from about 19 to 25 for a rec director and about 20 hours a week for a facilities.
Now,
person
would
at the
you, would
camp.
you guys consider having I'm just concerned that if you, paint yourselves into a corner of hiring somebody who's got that very limited availability of only, say, 25 hours a week. If all of a sudden, to Jim's point, we start having all these, in a way, the more successful they are in that limited 25 hours, it might mean that position suddenly needs 40 hours, a week. And I'm just concerned that if we're hiring somebody is that why you guys are going with the vendor thing? I'm just trying to connect the dots here.
We're trying to see that if we can get it to that point, great, we would like to go with a full-time, we figured started off a little slowly, vendor out position, and then see how everything rolls with programming and see what the potential of the camp is.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did we vote? I'm sorry, I forget. Did we vote that position part-time? The director position is a full-time position, period.
Right.
It's not part-time.
No.
All right. Mr. Young?
That's exactly the point I wanted to make. You couldn't do that right now, even if you wanted to.
I just said, I know.
That position is listed under professional positions. It's not listed as a part-time position.
Yeah, that's fine.
It was created as a full-time position,
Yep.
35 to 40 hours a week, $40,000 to $50,000 a year to
Yeah.
staff. And
So the idea is good, but, I get what
it
you're
can't
saying.
happen.
It is a full-time position.
You can't do it even if you wanted to do it. And personally, as a citizen, I would be against it. The town meeting voted to have that as a salaried, full-time position as a department head managing the camp. Even page 30 of the investigative report says the town needs a professional, full-time person down there to manage the employees, make sure all the policies and procedures and rules and regulations are being adhered to promote.
I'm in agreement with you that it's a full-time position. It can't be
The whole
part-time.
9 yards, provide recreational opportunities for the town.
Yes.
Manage the employees, know how to do everything that the AA does, so that person can step in. That's why the job description was amended to have that person who's sitting right next to the AA to be able to jump in and assist when the AA isn't there to do that position.
Yep.
The person's got to have an accounting and financial background. The person has to have some kind of either
Job-related skill set, I get you.
Job-related
Yeah.
skills in recreation management, know how to manage people, know how to manage the code, assist in the hiring of employees. I could go on and on. That person isn't a department
Please don't,
head.
I got you.
Thank you, Bruce.
I mean, I could go on.
No, I thought Bruce, I thought I killed it before you came up and spoke. I was hoping, man.
Well, that's it. That's the gist of it.
So I get what you're saying, Diane, and I understand the intent, but again, just a reminder, it is a full-time position. So, in a way, you're not backing yourself in the corner, what they're concerned with, but you also want to make sure that we don't,
I'm not trying to break any rules.
no, but not just
Yeah.
break the rules, but obviously you want to make sure we have enough work for this person too, right? That they do the right amount of work, so
That's
hopefully.
where the different skill sets come in.
Right, yeah.
Because really looking at what the camp truly does need,
Yeah,
it's going to be difficult, I believe, to find a person that can manage caretakers, to make sure they're doing all of their job, to make sure that everything out there is getting done, things like putting screens in and, deck wash and things like that.
sure.
While they're also managing and taking people on tours of the camp for weddings and meeting with electricians and meeting with potential, it's very different skill sets.
Okay,
So, given in the last round of interviews apparently, and I was not on the interview committee for a recreation director,
okay.
it was my understanding that there was not an excessively large pool of candidates, but no one came in with both sets of
The facilities and the.
It would be hard, if you go to school for, something like HRTA, hotel, restaurant, that kind of thing, and event planning and things like that,
Sure,
you're probably not gonna know so much about
facilities.
the electrician and how to, manage that part.
It's a combined skill, Laura?
Okay, that said though, Jim, I think that particular point has already been addressed by the carve-out that you just did at either the meeting just prior to this or the one before where Anne Marie sat with us and you guys carved out the facility director piece, because to me, although the recreation director would still be the personnel manager, if you will, or in charge of the caretakers, clearly the facility director would be the one meeting with the electricians, figuring out what the work was that needed to be done and all that. So I don't think that this time around, when you're interviewing people, you're gonna be looking for somebody with both of those skill sets. You've clarified that in the job description.
Yes.
So you may find that you have a better and more appropriate pool to choose from. But back to the part-time, full-time vendor thing, I guess I'm trying, so
I
if
think the reason we did it is because we didn't think we'd ever get two full-time things, you know, like a full-time rec director and a maintenance person, so
Okay,
we're
but-
trying to.
But we're not looking at it as, I mean, although you would be the initial priority, it's not just for the camp. Like, we've all acknowledged for years that we probably need a facilities director, because we have buildings, and we don't always take care of them proactively, the way that we should. And so although you guys will benefit initially, you will probably be the initial benefactor, you know, up the road, that person, you
Looking
know.
long-term, that
yeah.
person would be here, and I'm probably the person on the committee least qualified to address that, having not lived here that long. So, you know, not knowing all of that history. So, but I do think that that was the reason we tried to go with, maybe take one full-time and split it between two half-times, thinking that, okay, maybe we'll get a little bit of both.
Yeah, okay.
So, I think that was the intent.
Okay. Jim?
Mr. Chair, Diane, I just wanted to clarify, you said you were not on the hiring committee, but there was a member of the Recreation Commission on that committee.
Yes.
And that didn't work. The one thing that actually just popped into my head right now, and Mike, I'd have to refer to you on this, is that we're talking facilities manager that would have to be approved by the town and, you know, would cover the town buildings. But position-
Yeah, the
already
position
exists.
is created and has been approved by the
Okay.
town. What we're doing on Monday is seeing if town meeting will fund that position.
Okay, now let's just say, for argument's sake, whether it got funded or not, the rec commission, under your recommendation, could hire, let's just say, a retired carpenter or a retired electrician for 19 and a half hours a week.
In what capacity?
Yeah.
As the capacity, not as a facilities manager, but almost as the head caretaker, where they would be paid a little bit more and
Yeah,
they
and
would,
and we do have people sort of like that right now.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this, as Bruce said, it was 40 hours a week for the recreation director, but the rec commission could hire another caretaker or two to fill these immediate needs by people that can actually do it.
In terms of the repairs and facility stuff?
Yes.
Yes,
The biggest,
Without the facilities manager.
yes.
but the biggest immediate need is overseeing of that staff too.
Yeah.
And directing it,
And that's why I would just
not
suggest
working
you...
alongside them.
Right, but that's why I would suggest you pay that person a little bit more, you know, as, and I think, Mr. Chair, as we did do this
We
in the
did.
job description,
Yeah.
we have a head caretaker.
Yes.
That gets paid more and doesn't necessarily do all the work, but distributes the work to the other caretakers.
Well, I think
Yeah.
and I think there's actually a person attached to it.
Yes.
Who actually also does some of the
She
scheduling
does.
with them, so, yeah.
But just to bring us back on track, the agenda is discussion regarding the recreation director position, so.
It has to be a full-time position.
It has to be.
Okay, so that said, can we get to the meat of the matter, which is the vendor versus employee?
Right, so Diane, I don't know if you remember, but back in August, I think, Bruce, remember back in August? I don't know if you guys remember back in August, I gave a wonderful presentation on the position itself. The director position, whether it be employee, vendor, or contractor, would directly report to the Recreation Commission. Okay?
Yes, I
So
remember
the
you.
town, so the town has, and the town recreation commission has control. We're not vendoring out the entire Camp Kawani to some outside vendor.
We're talking about one position here.
Exactly.
One person, one
Exactly.
position.
I want to be clear. In your opinion, Diane, were you approached, coerced, or, you know, by myself or any member of this board on that position? To be a vendor or employee?
I don't think any of us have discussed it with the recreation. I think they independently came up with
Yeah.
that.
I think that's great, yes, thank you. I'm trying to squash some of the rumors and speculations out there that are going on about me pushing my agenda or somebody else pushing my
Oh,
agenda.
God, no,
Because back in,
absolutely not.
back in August, when we talked about it, this is
Not
what we
this
talked
past
about.
August, the August prior?
August 2016, correct.
16,
Yeah.
okay,
And
good.
we talked about this specific item.
Yeah,
Commercialized.
I remember.
And we talked about the fact that the director position was going to be an employee, contractor, or vendor.
I was at that meeting, and I do remember your presentation very well, and I commented on it.
Okay.
And no, none of us were coerced in any way,
Or
shape, or
pressured
form.
by myself. or
Absolutely not,
anybody
none of
else.
us were even contacted about the notion,
Thank you.
so.
Are there any questions further?
Well, so I am just curious, again, I hear you saying that you wanted to go part-time because you were concerned about costs and you were like,
That
well,
is- that
we don't
is-
want to be greedy, we don't want to ask too much.
Exactly, that was
We
it.
appreciate that. But was that the same notion with the vendor, like, okay, we feel like we're pushing it, if we have an employee, like, I'm just
We
trying
were
to.
trying to save a little bit of money for the town on benefits and such, and so, again, taking the full-time and changing the job descriptions, one to fit more of a facilities person with the maintenance and the actual labor on the camp versus programming and scheduling recreational events. And, 'cause
Okay,
they
but
are-
so, now that you know that it's a full-time job,
Mhm.
it's a full-time job, you know, and you guys are, gonna be working with that full-time person, are you saying that as a commission, and I know it's awkward because you're really one person, but you're sort of here, you're the scapegoat
By
tonight.
default.
But are you saying that, you guys would feel uncomfortable that you would not have enough work and that you could not find enough work, that you could not give somebody in that position the direction that would fill up their hours, or I'm just trying to.
I'm not sure it requires a full-time person to program at the camp. That is my opinion. I believe that to be the opinion of the overall commission.
Well, we'll defer to that, but it's a good question. We'll defer to that based on kind of what Bruce said and the director's position with removal of the facilities items, okay? But I did want to point out to you that we have, and this is a discussion and not an inquisition to you, okay?
I know, it's
Although it
okay,
seems
it's
that
okay.
way. So, would I be wrong, and I put this to this board, would I be wrong in stating the fact that we have an excellent accountant who is a contractor? And he's not an employee other than a contractor, right? And we're not paying him a pension, we're not paying him benefits, medical, health, or anything of that nature. And, I mean, the man should probably put on a cape because he does a terrific job in one day versus probably what most others take several days to do. But that position itself too has worked out, right? And what we're comparing to here is the director position, which could be similar in that capacity. Not 1 day a week. I understand that the director might do the 5-day work week thing, the whole thing, I'm saying that. But I'm saying in comparison to what we already have.
Yes, that was our intent. It was, it doesn't have to be, an employee to do that. You could program and plan events, and it doesn't take 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. It just doesn't.
Okay, so can we play this out? Let's say we take a vote, we decide we're gonna do the vendor, we're gonna RFQ. If somebody doesn't come forward, then our default position is we're gonna have to go and post as, how do we know we're getting the best candidate for the job in an RFQ versus, I guess I could kind of counter argue that like, the better candidate might actually want like more stability by having the job, the benefits, the da-da-da-da. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here.
No, I'm glad you are. That's terrific. Great point.
What does it refer to?
You might, it depends.
Last year's town meeting.
But it also goes, and you're right, Laura, it does matter.
Do they want an employee?
We might get a better candidate as an employee versus a vendor. Absolutely.
We might.
But we might not too. So let's think of the reverse of that. Let's just say, for example, that we wanted to, we had to dismiss somebody quickly,
Yeah, obviously.
right?
Yeah.
And tell
know
me
which-
that ain't that's true
No, we
up
know
there,
which
then
one we
fine,
prefer
right?
on that,
So if we
yeah.
had to dismiss somebody on a quick note, right? As an employee, you're gonna have to go through the HR
It's a long
process,
process.
Yep.
right? as a vendor or a contractor, you give them the 30-day notice and you move on.
100% agree.
We
So
were
there's pros and
thinking-
cons to both.
We were thinking a vendor might like the flexibility of being able to.
To do
Mr. Howard
something.
has a question.
New voice, hold on, Bruce. Mr. Howard.
No, I was just thinking, if you have somebody up there working
But they voted on an employee
that doesn't have town insurance,
position.
and the person gets injured, how does that employee that's working for the town get covered by insurance?
Well, how does Todd get covered by insurance?
He probably has his own liability.
Yeah, but it's a different insurance, because I'm listening to somebody that's gonna be working up there doing physical labor, an electrician or a carpenter or
Are
somebody.
you talking about the facilities director?
Well-
The facilities? Were you talking
You're
about?
talking about two people.
We're talking about the director
Right
position,
now, we're
which,
talking about the
Yeah.
recreation.
which doesn't do the
What he's saying is
facilities.
the vendor's not gonna be under town insurance.
Right, but usually they have their own.
Right.
There's
They'll have their
usually
own
a company,
liability.
and
But
there's
then
also
you're gonna hire a
caretakers up there now
facilities
doing
person
manual
to
labor that
do
don't
work up
have
there.
physical
But that's a-
jobs, and they
that's
don't
not-
have
that's
them.
not on our agenda, that's a
I know
different
it's
show.
not.
Employees, so they're covered by our insurance.
Yeah, that's
Right.
different, John.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
When this position was created at town meeting, it was voted on by the people, it was accepted, and it was my understanding at the time that people that, when the position was created and voted upon, it was for an employee.
No. It never stated that in the
But
article.
it never stated
It never
vendor or
state-
contractor. What they were
That's
voting
right.
on was a position,
Position.
Yeah.
Doesn't specify the type of position.
So the
which would
full-time for sure,
automatically
Jim.
be an
Full-time.
employee.
Well, so you're
No.
saying you think people sitting there would have assumed it's gonna be an employee?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you didn't give them a choice of employee, vendor, or contractor. It was, we're creating this position as another position in town, another town employee.
I'm sorry that anybody would have misinterpreted that or interpreted it as an employee. I certainly can understand the point, but the fact of the matter, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm 99.9% sure that legal agrees it doesn't have to be.
But
Mr. Young, move on for a
But
second.
it never stated contractor or vendor.
Let me take you back to when that particular section of the classification and compensation bylaw was added to the classification and compensation bylaw to give the Board of Selectmen the flexibility, okay,
To vote.
to do both. And the reason for that, and that I was asked the question at town meeting, Mr. Young, are you trying to, is the
I
Board
remember.
of Selectmen trying to privatize every position that's listed in the classification bylaw? I said, no. That only gives the Board of Selectmen
Flexibility for the
flexibility to
position.
highest, to
Vendor,
go out,
contractor,
get a vendor temporarily, okay, while they're searching and having a search and interviewing people and posting a position to be filled as an employee. You have no intention of privatizing.
Does it say
anything.
temporarily in the bylaw?
No, it doesn't, but I'm just telling you that that's what I told the town meeting on behalf of the Board of Selectmen. So that person wouldn't think we're out to privatize everybody.
I'm not out to privatize anybody in this,
No,
but we
I'm
have a
just saying,
position
I'm
here,
just
and I
saying,
agree
that
with
was-
you, Bruce.
That was the
I know.
question I was asked.
And I
That was how I
appreciate, and I
responded.
appreciate what you've said for a
Okay.
response, but the reality is that this board has the option to vote it as
Well, of
vendor.
course you do. Of
Okay.
course you do. You can go whatever way you want to go. But understand, to try to compare that with the way the town accountant operates right now is apples and oranges. He supervises one position over there, his assistant. He works 12 hours a week and gets paid a full-time salary for working 12 hours a week. Prior to him, every other town accountant was a full-time position, okay? Prior to him. So you look, this is apples and oranges. You're hiring a department head who's going to be there 5 days a week. I gave you my rendition.
When you say apples and oranges, sir, you're talking about something, you're talking about in terms of timeframes.
No, I'm talking
And
about the
people
position.
supervising. I'm talking about, we have the option to do what we
I'm talking
did.
about the position, the way the town accountant operates compared to what the job description is for the recreation director.
But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying in terms of is on how they're hired by the town.
And if you put it out as a salary position, you get to interview those people. You get to pick. You get to know what that person's qualifications are, and you get to hire that person based on those qualifications and how that person performs in the job interview and decide whether that job description fits that particular individual. When you go through a company, you get the individual that they send you, who they think can handle this particular position.
Not if you contract correctly, you can say, we get to decide who, you need to send us 2 or 3 people. We don't need to just accept whoever they.
You think that there's a company around that has 2 or 3 people that's gonna fit the job description?
Well, we get to make, we
Yes.
get to make the.
You think so?
I do.
Okay. And you really think you're going to
Bruce,
save money on an annual basis?
I think in all honesty,
Understand that when
Bruce,
you
I
hire
think,
some, when you get hired through a company, that person is not only paying that person's hourly, paying that person's salary, they're paying their benefits, but they're making money off of what they're charging you for that particular individual. It's like the old Kelly Girl program.
Yeah.
You hire a Kelly Girl to come in. It's the same thing, all right?
Right.
So, I mean, if you want to go that way, and you can find somebody that's really qualified to do that job, and meets all the criteria for the job description, and what that particular position requires to fulfill it, go right ahead, see if you can get somebody.
and I'll tell you why I'm kind of leaning toward that, Bruce.
Yes.
And not just Bruce, but Diane, is because of the position that was already filled. We did it with an employee, right? And it didn't work. Now, the system worked in that we had a time frame for this person to work in, and if they didn't work out, we had the option to say, sorry, you didn't work out during this time frame, right? So we've tried the employee position. We've gone down that path. We tried it.
Once you hire the wrong individual.
That's correct. So I would like a faster turnaround time than the 6-month period. I'd like something with a vendor or a contractor. I think we've gone down that path. We've tried it. I don't see what the problem is for trying something different.
Are you going to try that for every department head?
No, sir. Just this one in front of us today.
Why?
That's all I have for you to say.
Why are you going to do with the
Bruce,
department head? What if
Bruce,
you got another
I don't think-
position like, well, let's say the
I'm not going to outsource every other position, no.
Well, why are you picking this one?
Because this one is on the topic
This was
tonight.
recommended by us.
That's right.
But you obviously, based on what you said, you had a lot of false premises as far as what this position does.
Okay, Bruce. Hold on. All right. I'm going to call to order,
This
please.
particular
No more.
position is nothing more than an
Mr.
event
Young.
planner and a programmer. That's wrong.
Mr.
That's
Young.
not right.
Okay.
Mr. Young,
And
Diane,
Yeah,
please.
It's not, she's wrong when she says
Mr.
what
Young,
she said.
I'm going to ask you, please, no more, please.
That person is more than a programmer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Laura, would you like to say something?
Yeah, so Jim, I totally get what you're saying based on our most recent experience. But having dealt with employee and personnel issues over a number of years, I think that in part, a lot of the issues that we had were because of what Diane began her discussion with, which is it was virtually impossible to find a person that embodied all of those skills that we were looking for. I mean, I don't know that person. They would have to be like some kind of like miracle person to be able to figure out facilities, run people, do events, you know.
I understand, and I understand that, and now
So
we're separating it
The
out.
reason I'm saying that is now that we've carved out through the job descriptions, I feel very confident, whether it's an employee or whether it's an employer or it's an RFQ, that we're gonna be able to find that right person. And I don't think just because we've had a personnel issue means that we need to go to having the RFQ. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, I'm just saying,
You're
you know,
playing the devil's advocate, I
yeah,
get you.
yeah.
And that's a good point, and I understand that, Laura. So that's where I'm saying it's a personal decision, right? There's pros and cons to both.
But I just want to say something out of respect, because I know you guys you're a lot more experienced than I am with this, and I understand that. Had we known, if we had walked into this camp as a recreation commission, where all the buildings were functioning properly and all the security systems were up to code and up to date, and everything in those buildings was the way it should be to run at its full potential and capacity, we might not need a maintenance person. And a full-time recreation director would be a dream based on that previous job description. It really would be. We could get it, we could do all kinds of things there. But we can't.
Okay.
I
Diane,
understand that.
Diane, you have to deal your comments to
I'm
me.
sorry. But we can't do that, I apologize, we can't do that we can't get people into the camp and renting the camp and providing the events we want to provide for people until the facilities are in a place that can
Be safe.
sustain that and generate that.
Okay.
So that has to be the top priority. You know, I mean, I hate to use a teacher analogy, but I'm not teaching my kids multiplication before I teach them how to add. You gotta do one thing before you do the other. You don't put the roof on before you put the foundation in.
Jim, may I just say one more thing?
Sure.
You know, and Diane, I hope you recognize that this board supports what the commission's trying to do. We know you guys are working hard. We know that you have had a lot of moving parts and there's a steep learning curve there. So I hope that you guys do recognize that. And that's my hesitancy in saying, you know, no to this, is that I really don't want to send a message to the Recreation Commission, who we have theoretically empowered to do this job up there, and we've appointed. I don't want to give them the mixed message, like, you're empowered, but hey, not if we really, you know, so I think we need to really think about the, you know, whether we're supporting them in the right way. Again, I'm not saying I'm against it. I haven't, you know.
I honestly hope, and I understand what you're saying, the place has to be safe and functional before we bring people in there to do things, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the case. And that falls onto the facilities director position that we're talking about, that we're gonna take the town meeting to see if it gets funded. If it doesn't get funded, then we've got our back up against the wall, and we're gonna have to figure something else out, all right? But the point is, right now, is that we've got which might be the reason why we only need to vendor or contract out the director position, because, look, if that doesn't work out, we can just simply say, here's your 30 days, and then go down the path of hiring an employee, if so be it, right? Because they're not, you know, not a true employee of the town. They're not somebody that we have to pay benefits for. They're not somebody who's gonna have to pay vacation time or medical or health and all of that, right?
That's true, but I think a Todd comes along once in a million years.
I agree with you.
I mean, he's not the standard for what, you know, probably you're gonna see.
Yep.
I don't think
If
they're
I
gonna
could
find
just-
Don't go
somebody.
there, Todd.
If I could just say one more thing, you know, about Diane, because I was on the commission 2 years ago. I'm not sure what's happened to the camp, but we were having weddings. We were having people stay in the cabins. The Cove was, for the first time in years, making money. So I'm not sure what's happened in the 2 years that I've left there. But as far as the facilities, every time there was a wedding, either the north end or the south end was being rented. So, you know, I mean,
It is, you are right.
That's fine. I
I
can't,
can't-
well, she made the point that
no, I know, and that's fine.
Please feel free to come to a meeting and hear the details or look in the minutes
There you go.
as to what is going on there. It's
Okay.
all there.
Okay, so we have in front of us a request from the Recreation Commission to support their decision on, are we gonna contract or vendor this position out, did we say? There's a
Vendor.
difference between the two? I think we
They're
said,
saying vendor
Vendor?
position. And Anne Marie is in her cover letter.
okay,
That's just to run one thing.
right,
Just the one position,
right,
recreation director.
And there is a description
yep.
for that commission.
And if we do put a vendor to it,
Part-time position?
they're going to apply probably for the salary range of somewhere between $30,000 to $50,000, is that right? I'm imagining that that's how it would work?
For a full-time?
Yes, it has to be full-time.
it has to be
Yeah.
full-time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something, one more thing before you go to the vote?
If it could be quick, sure, please.
I'm requesting that you go with the salary position simply because when the Recreation Commission voted last night.
It is salary.
Okay, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they voted under the false premise that they would have this position as a part-time position. That's what she said. They wanted it as a part-time position. It has to be a full-time position, okay? And so if they thought that, they didn't vote on having this as a full-time position. They knew nothing. Right, Diane?
Right.
Sure.
They wanted to have it as a part-time position, 19 to 25 hours a week. You can't do that. So if you're voting to support what they want to do, you're basically agreeing that it should be a 19 to 25-hour-a-week position. That wasn't what they voted on.
Well, no, we can take whatever vote we want tonight.
Oh, I understand that.
And on top of that, we've rectified the fact that it is a full-time position.
Yeah.
Now known, and now they know. And I don't know about you, but I think based on the description that you read, right, that it is a full-time position.
Yes.
Okay, so we're square there.
So knowing that you're still going to go with the vendor position, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we need yes, why wouldn't we?
What,
You just said it's a full-time position,
You know,
right?
I'm saying, knowing that, you're still going to go with the vendor position rather than a salaried employee?
He's saying that they were saying part-time vendor, and now that we've established it needs to be full-time, and we're sure that they still want vendor,
Right.
and that they knew what they were talking about.
All it says, I'm reading the minutes, and I'll read them again.
You don't
It
know
was
that.
mentioned that the Recreation Commission has discussed it being part-time,
Yeah,
and discussion with the change in the job description.
right.
Okay, and we've just remedied here tonight that it is a full-time job.
We can't change it to a part-time.
But we've also, but if we get the job description itself, right,
Would the Recreation
Correct.
which we
Commission,
had before, by the way, guys, if you recall.
Yes.
what I said was, would the Recreation Commission still want it as a vendor position, knowing it was going to be, it would have to be full-time?
I think the answer to that is yeah.
Why, how do you know that?
I don't want to speak for everybody, so I'm going to
Just,
I can't speak.
There's
for
nothing in your
myself.
minutes here that's saying you guys voted on it being part-time. You were wondering whether it should be part-time. But there's nothing here and in Anne Marie's cover letter, she's not saying part-time recreation, she's saying vendor. And in your minutes, you're saying, this position has been discussed, but it was not officially voted on as a vendor. It was mentioned that the Recreation Commission has discussed it being part-time in a discussion with the, and then Town Administrator Mike McHugh requested a vote to allow the Hanson Board of Selectmen to vendor the position. So again, the vote and all the discussion last night in Anne Marie's letter is all focused on vendor or not.
right.
You can't have a vendor.
No, you
If
can't.
we move to the vote, you know we're voting for a full-time position, whether it's vendor or employee.
Okay,
I understand that.
so I would,
But it'll be full-time.
it will be
Full-time.
full-time, that's correct, yes.
Okay.
So I would entertain a motion to support the Recreation Commission's decision from what we have in front of us regarding the point of director to be a vendor position.
Yep,
Full-time.
Full-time
Full-time.
position.
Position.
Yes.
Mike, again, I'm sorry if I'm being thick-headed about this, but I want to really make sure I understand timelines here, okay? If we vote tonight, again, click our heels, and we're going to vote and say that we want this vendor, talk to me about timelines. And then talk to me about what happens if this mysterious person never shows up on our door and we don't get somebody meeting all of this criteria who wants to work full-time in a vendor position doing the reconfigured job description that we've come up with. Then what's the step?
Well, we would, if the board votes to go in the direction of requesting an RFQ to vend it out, we'll have that out. We've already got pretty much, we've got the job description and all of that. We'd try to have it out before the end of the week, beginning of next week. We would, I guess we would put a timeline on that of 2 to 3 weeks in which to respond. We would sit with members of the commission. They would designate members of the commission to sit and interview whoever applies, or applies is probably the wrong word. That responds. And at that point in time, we could set timelines in terms of a performance review. Again, we'd have to sit and have the conversation. We could say that, after 6 months or 3 months or whatever we've decided, we'll sit and we'll review to see whether things are working out. I mean, a contract can say whatever we want a contract to say. Do you need the two parties to agree? And then at that time, if it's not working out, say if it was 3 months or 6 months, then I don't think we would really need to take any, I'm not sure, I'd have to check, but I don't think any action would need to be taken further. We break the contract or walk away from the contract and then go back, the fallback position of putting it out for an employee.
All right, that's super helpful, but now what if that wonderful person, never,
If we
never
go,
comes
if we
to
go
our...
through the process,
What happens?
If you go through the RFQ and nobody posts for it, then
Yeah.
we're gonna have to come back, the board, I would assume that the recreation board,
I would say if
Gonna have
the
to-
board is so inclined, to go with allowing an RFQ to go out, or vendor, however we want to say it,
Yeah.
I would probably recommend that you have a contingency within the motion, that if no appropriate firm or individual or entity applies or is agreed upon, that we have the fallback position where we go back with a full-time employee, an employee as opposed to a...
Okay, that's exactly what I was
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, but, I mean, even if we didn't put that wording in there,
Could
right,
still
Mike?
do that.
They could still do that, right?
Yeah, but I think
That
just
would have to
in
take
terms
another
of
vote.
clarity, it may make sense to put that
This
within
is
the
a
motion.
full-time vendor with no benefits.
Full-time well, if we made the motion that's being discussed, then it would be a full-time vendor initially with no benefits. If that doesn't work out, if we don't have that person appear on our doorstep, or we don't think that they're sufficiently skilled to do the job.
Why would somebody
then-
want to come to work here for 40 hours with no benefits?
That's a valid question. I don't have the answer to that,
Absolutely.
but...
Well, Mr.
You
Chair.
know, I'm just bringing it
For
up.
the same reason why Todd shows
Yeah,
up and
yeah.
works.
Yeah, but Todd's a different person.
It doesn't matter though, Donnie. It's
the
still
same
the same type
concept.
of, it's the same concept.
Could be somebody who's retired and they've got benefits
Yeah.
through a spouse or whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
Mr. Chairman.
I just have a question.
Yes.
So if we vendor this position out and it's a full-time position and we find that they're billing us for the 30 hours or 35, whatever it is, what happens then if they come to us and say, the job can only be done in 20 hours? I mean, what if they're doing it in 20 hours, booking everything that needs to be booked at the camp and everything? Could we revisit it then?
That's a different discussion. You'd have to go
Town
to,
meeting.
word, yeah.
That's a
wait,
town meeting
yeah,
issue? Okay, because you're changing the job.
The job.
Okay.
Would
No,
we
I
just-
just, I don't know
yeah.
all the the
Which is
process
possible, it
procedure.
just take a while.
Right, and again, this will be a wait and see thing. We're, again, still new. We haven't completed a full cycle yet of being on the commission, so we would just.
So your point is that if they're working in a job and they find out that it doesn't
I
take
don't want to vote for something.
35 hours to work on,
I see.
Well, because right now we have our administrative
You know what I
assistant
mean?
if that's true with what you're saying,
booking the weddings,
then-
and everything's running smoothly in that regard.
no, I know, but if that's true with what you're saying, then I'm more inclined to vote for the vendor and contractor and not a full-time employee to the position.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
Is that your point?
Yes.
Okay. Do we understand what her last point was?
No, I'm sorry. We were
That's
having a
okay.
sidebar, which is completely rude.
That's okay. The last point Diane was trying to make was that if we find out that the job does not entail the full 35 hours a week, right? And we have a full-time person up there, full-time employee up there, right? It's going to be more difficult to change the job description and so forth and go back on cutting it down
Maybe,
versus,
but can't we find more for them to do?
I don't,
If they have a
as long as it's related to Camp Kawani
If
and their job description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we don't get a maintenance person,
Right.
there'll be plenty for the person. to-
But in the meantime, do I want to put a full-time employee of the town in a position that may not qualify for a 35-hour position? When I would be better, let me finish, when we might be better off to put in a contractor or a vendor in that position until we determine that, and then we can simply end the contract within the 30 days, right?
Well, modify it,
Modify it,
maybe.
maybe
Modify the
do all these
position,
changes
yeah.
beforehand, right?
Yeah.
And then go to that point.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, would like some continuity up there.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just don't know where the continuity.
right. All right, we're-
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I wanted to make a point or a counterpoint on your point, because
Well, it was
even if...
actually Diane's point, but
Okay,
okay.
even if the vendor gets the job done in 24 hours, in less than 35, in 20 hours,
Yeah.
as Diane mentioned, we're still paying whatever the contract says.
That's
So
correct.
whether they can get out of there in 20, we're paying 35.
Right, and we can end the contract in the 30-day period.
So we're going to sign a contract for 30 days with a vendor.
No, it depends on what you want to do, yeah, whatever the options are, right.
Okay, so you're going to end it, though, if the vendor, if we're paying 35 hours and the vendor's doing the job in 20, we're going to end it in 30 days.
based on whatever the contract says.
Okay, then what happens the following month?
Well, before we end it, right, we're gonna take their assessment from that
Yeah.
and probably, I'm guessing, change the job description of it, right, so that it fits,
But-
and then cancel their contract so that we don't have to pay them the money that we're paying them.
The town already approved
But
at
then aren't
last
we gonna
year's
be
meeting for
hamstrung?
30, for a full-time position.
Right, but I'm saying to you that we may have to change that,
Right,
correct?
but then aren't we gonna have to wait till town meeting? Like, then we're gonna get our,
When
we're
Yep.
gonna-
Yes,
When?
but that would be.
May, October, I
May,
mean,
October,
hopefully,
right.
all this timing of the vendor working out or not working out.
So we could find an employee, possibly, and they get the job done, and it will be changed in the October town meeting.
And that's my concern,
Right.
because that would stink for a full-time employee knowing that they're only really gonna be working 25 hours, right?
But the vendor, we're gonna keep going over and over with
But we
the
can stop it
contractor.
when we want to.
Mr. Chairman?
It doesn't,
If you end up hiring the right person, and that person's doing exactly the job that's they're supposed to do, as described in the job description, as I just described it to you, that person is going to be working a full-time position, 35 to 40 hours a week. Show me anybody in this town that's hired as a department head who's ever come to the town administrator and he says, can you please reduce my hours to 20 hours? It's only on, I only need to be here 20 hours a week.
I understand what you're saying,
It's
Bruce,
not gonna happen.
but I'm going on
It's
the
the most
recommendation,
ridiculous discussion I've ever heard in my life.
I'm going on the recommendation from the Recreation
That's
Commission.
the question, Bruce.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
Commission's position on vendoring out the position for the director up at Camp Kawani, and I think it's what you say, Mike, RFQ? What was the language that you used?
Yeah, it'd be an RFQ.
Okay.
And then add just that little verbiage that he said.
And Mike, did you want to add we'll add your verbiage
Full-time
on?
position?
Full-time.
Yes,
Yeah.
Full-time RFQ.
full-time RFQ position, okay?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. I call to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against? 4-1-0.
Excuse me.
Four,
I-
4-1, wasn't it?
4-0, yeah.
No, I'm not saying.
Four in
excuse me
favor.
because of the
4-1,
vote.
okay.
1 against, 4-1.
Also.
0 abstains.
With the backup that we go with the employee if the RFQ doesn't work.
Yeah, he's got that in there.
Yes.
Oh, was that part of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yep.
What Kenny said with that addendum.
All right,
in there,
thanks,
okay?
you were all over it.
All right, we are moving now to actually building committee reports. Kenny, did you want to talk about the highway building committee?
No, we didn't. Oh, actually, yeah, we didn't. We just went over.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Diane. We just went over our presentation and stuff for this week, so, nothing new to report other than what we talked about earlier.
All right, great. All right, I would entertain a motion to move to executive session,
So moved.
Second.
and I will read.
Read it.
In front, it says to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, treasurer, collector, assessor, and police lieutenant, and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares, administrative, professional, and police unions. I would, motion's been made and seconded, roll call vote to.
Yes.
Executive
Yes.
session, yes.
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 We are now in executive session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. When we adjourn, we will adjourn to regular meeting and adjourn from regular meeting from there. Okay? Thank you all for coming.